Climbing up the ladder, we ain't looking back, lad. Everybody now come get aboard. We ain't taking no more heavy load. Let me come together and make things better. Now we ready for the road. We don't want a drama. No, get on board with me. It's one big family and we rolling with BLP. And together we rolling. Together we moving. Together we working. And we building. Tell me how you're feeling. You know why? All the way with the BLP. All the way one family. All the way with the BLP. All the way with me. Come let me step with me. We making it better. With me. Climbing up the ladder. And we ain't looking back, lad. Red. We ain't taking no more heavy load. Red. We ain't taking no more. Now is the time. Everybody ready? Go tell your friends. Tell your whole family.
Good evening. Good evening. Seems as though everyone is not here. Seems as though we are not ready to gather. Seems as though we are not ready to march. Good evening, Barbados Labour Party. Okay, we're getting warm. There are one or two people down there whose lips were still sealed. For the final time, good evening, Labour Party. Now feeling you now. Happy to be here with you. You know, there's an old philosopher, poet, Francois de Rochefoucauld. And he once said that we sometimes confess our small faults so that we can conceal our greatest. And just a few nights ago, I punished myself by listening to the meeting the Democratic Labour Party held at Newbury. And I want to tell you that I would not want to be there. I would rather not to be there. But just like me, you know, Wood was there. Now I can say this to you. Now I know that he said he worked hard in the campaign, like if he alone did. And he said he was the assistant campaign manager. I suppose there was more than one, so if he says he was the one, well, that's good for him. But what I don't understand is what would possess Wood to go on a Democratic Labour Party's platform just 2.5 years after he walked all over this country, literally terrorizing these people from the political platform. They were the worst things you could ever imagine on this earth, but Wood can still find time to be there. I remember the same Wood, once hard, probably now soft, same Wood, got on the platform and referred to some members of the Democratic Labour Party in some tones that I will never even muster. And I can get kind of little thing when I'm ready. But Anthony Wood, that same Wood, referred to men in the Democratic Labour Party as big, nasty, stinking rats. He did. I would not say that on the political platform, but I smell a rat. I smell a rat. and what was on the Democratic Labour Party platform in Newbury. Those two statements are not connected. People, Anthony Wood cannot pretend that he got hurt or sidelined, because he did not. If Anthony Wood felt that he should leave, I don't know. I can only conjure up these things. You know that everybody who gets involved in the campaign will feel that there should be a minister, you know. You know that? Do you believe that? Man, I can't hear y'all, man. Listen, but I was involved in the campaign. Well, you don't think I should feel I should be a minister too? But I still here. I still here. I work hard in the campaign. I am no minister. I still here. There are other people who work hard in the campaign, but they work hard for the love of the party. They didn't come with any unrealistic expectations. What gives him the right to think that he must get what he thinks he must have? There are many of you who did what you had to do for love of party. For love of party. And that is what is paramount. When Labour Party people are gathered, we gathered in the name of the Barbados Labour Party. So Grantley, Herbert Adams, Tom Adams, Owen Arthur, Harold Bernard, St. John, those men upon whose shoulders we stand. And I am proud to stand where those great men stood. I stand in the shoe print of those great men. But this evening, I will tell you that there are other people who have to come to you. I am only but to introduce the people. And I bring to you the first speaker, Dr. William Duguid.
From left to right, put do it with all your might. All right, from left to right, put do it with all your might. My shirts twist from right to left, put them out on none of them left. All right, from right to left, put them out on none of them left.
Good afternoon, Barbados Labour Party family. How are you feeling today? Pardon me? How are you feeling today? Oh, that's the Barbados Labour Party family that I am accustomed to hearing. Because just like me, I am sure you can sense a victory in St. George North. I am sure you can sense a victory for Tony Moore. Because the people in St. George North, what they want? I can't hear you. What they want? What they got to get? What they going to make sure and vote for on November the 11th? Because we need more in Parliament. And I am going to be so happy and so proud to have Tony Moore in Parliament next to me from the day after November the 11th. Because she is a good person and will make a fantastic representative for St. George North. Now, my friends, and I could call y'all friends, right? Because I am here amongst members of the Barbados Labour Party. And all of you are my friends. I have been a member of the Barbados Labour Party from 1986. And I know there are some of you out there will say, well, you only now come. You only now come. And I understand that. But from 1986 to now, a proud member of the Barbados Labour Party, doing everything I could do to make the Barbados Labour Party the party of first choice in this country. Now, I've been a member of Parliament in opposition, and it was tough. I've been a member of Parliament as a backbencher, and it was tough. And I've been a minister of government. And it is very, very tough. It was tough when we had one of the largest debts in the world. But Mia Amor Motley sorted that out. Give a round of applause for that. It's your leader. It's our leader. And it was tough then when we had to fight downgrade after downgrade and turn the country around. But the Barbados Labour Party was able to do it, and we were on a trajectory to make the country better. And then this thing called COVID hit. And it made our life 10 times harder. You know, I tell this story many times, that many days we were in cabinet with the Prime Minister. And we would be coming out of a meeting at 1 a.m. in the morning. After starting our meetings at 10 a.m. And when we are coming out, we are thinking, oh my gosh, how late it is. But when we get to the door, there's another group ready to go in to start their meeting. I tell a lie, John? Because we worked hard. We worked hard to turn the country around. We worked hard to make a difference. We worked hard to put this country back where it should be, rather than having fallen down to where it was under the Democratic Labour Party and Frandell Stewart. And we were getting there, and we were ready, and we were on the precipice. And then COVID hit. And then we had to redouble our efforts, work even harder, do things even better. But let me tell you, if it was not for the vision, if it was not for the laser-like focus and the absolute dedication of Mia Amor Motley, where would we be today? Could you imagine Barbados Labour Party? Could you imagine having to deal with COVID under the Democratic Labour Party? Could you imagine it? Well, we'd already be dead. We would already be dead. They would never have been able to control the pandemic the way the Barbados Labour Party has. Because they talk, but never execute. But let me tell you, do you not feel proud when you see Mia Amor Motley on the international stage? CNN, BBC, ABC, you name it. When last you saw Frandell on anything like that, though? But if you were to see him, you might see him asleep, because after all, you know that he was the sleeping giant. But I ain't even start yet. And they're telling me I only got 3 minutes left. I was asked to come and talk about the wonderful work that the Ministry of Housing, Lands, and Maintenance has been doing. And let me first say, I am humble and proud to be the minister of that ministry. First, we have been able to build on the good work that was done by the previous minister, George Payne. Please give him a round of applause. And through the wonderful foundation that he has left, we've been able to not only start the sale of house lots in Deanstown, we've been able to start 15 houses in Todd's. We're about to start another 15 in Rice's very shortly. I am in the process of designing and developing new rental units. We're going to call them quads, and we're going to pick locations to have them all across the country, because we recognize everybody will not be a landowner. Some people will have to rent, and we're going to have to do that. But that's not all we're doing. The former administration as well, they gave away the units to people who had them for 20 years and more. Fine. But they never completed the deal because they never gave them the conveyances. we are taking before Cabinet very shortly a paper to be able to convey all of those terrace units to all of the people that got them under the 20-year program. Give us a clap for that. But I want to go further. I want to go further. In addition to that, there were many people. I thought it was 450, but when I went back at the records, it's almost 600. Almost 600 of our brothers and sisters paid down money to buy units. That money has been sitting there for years, deposits to buy their units. And then when the Democratic Labour Party came and gave away the units, they never gave back those people their money. $5.5 million. But the Barbados Labour Party and Mayor Amor Motley said, that can't happen both here. Those people must get back their money. It was in the throne speech. It is coming before Cabinet. And I want to say to all of those people, all of our brothers and sisters, that one thing this administration will make sure and do is that they will get their refunds back. Because we have been given a mandate to make wrong things right. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. God bless you all. And good afternoon.
Hey, this one for the people. 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 'Cause we got to fight for we country. Fight for we country. Fight for we country. Let me go. What we need to come together. What we need to.
Thank you, William. Thank you. Excuse me, people, please. I have to make sure the housing minister is protected. He's doing a very good job over there. Very, very good job. Thank you. Yep. Started a conversation earlier when I told you that I'm still here. I'm still here. Just like many of you, I still here. I want to continue with wood. I would like to thank Wood for leaving the Barbados Labour Party. I want to thank him. We know he was around and he served a little time and so on, and he decided to go. Let him go. I hope that Wood runs for the Democratic Labour Party too. I hope so. Because wherever he runs, I would go. And I'm serious. Not to run, not to be a candidate. I would go to run him. Not to run. But I can save a little something for him for Tate Hill. He did his thing out in the public, in the constituency, in the heart of the community. I will save something for him. All I want to say is that it is a bad thing to give a blind man a looking glass and then expect the man to thank you for it. Remember that. The next speaker I bring to you is a friend of mine of over 30 years. One of the most decent honest, hardworking people you can know. And I said over 30 years, so you would know that we would have known each other since we were like 10. 10 or so. But this man has just gone to the ministry. The wisdom of the prime minister is easily unmatched. And she brought this young man forward. And he has so distinguished himself already. And I'm sure that you would agree with me when I tell you that Ian Gooding-Edgell is the worthy of the office he holds. Ladies and gentlemen, Ian Gooding-Edgell.
Ian Gooding-Edgell. Attention, we need your attention. We found a man we could trust, a man of action, good representation. We know he'll take good care of us. Ian is the right man, a man with a will.
Good afternoon to the Barbados Labour Party family. It's always a good thing to be with the family of the Barbados Labour Party, especially at annual conference. And we are here in St. George, not by accident, but we are here in St. George because something is happening here in St. George. And I may add that something good is happening here in St. George. But I also bring you greetings from St. Michael West Central. And I've come to you because it has just been 29 months, some 29 months ago, that the people of Barbados gave the Barbados Labour Party a mandate to govern this country. And in so doing, your Barbados Labour Party, the party that, and I don't know if it decided to have it this way, but your Barbados Labour Party, that each and every occasion, when we have to pick up the mantle to lead and to govern the affairs of this country, we always have to pick it up from almost the clutches of destruction. And we have on almost every occasion to do that. I don't know if it's fate's way, but on every occasion that your great Barbados Labour Party is faced with a challenge when we have to pick up the pieces and to put them together to ensure we have a better life for your people, the Barbados Labour Party continues to ensure success. In other words, on every occasion that we are given the mandate to govern the affairs of this Barbados Labour Party, your Barbados Labour Party picked up the pieces, managed the economy, put people back to work, bring back prosperity to people, all within, you know what we represent, making a better way and certainly giving the people a better quality of life. And that is what your great political party continues to do. But on this occasion, a lot happened. Yes, we've been in office for 29 months, and you heard it from other speakers, but COVID presented its challenge. We were about to repair the economy, manage the situation to almost take off, to cruise at maybe an altitude, not 30 or 35,000, but maybe 40,000 feet, to ensure that we make life better for you. But COVID confronted us, but that hasn't stopped us. And I've come to you this afternoon to say to you that we have only just begun, ladies and gentlemen. And certainly, the ministry for which I have oversight, we've only just begun. And when I tell you this, I tell you it from all sincerity, from the bottom of my heart, that this Barbados Labour Party will do what should have been done 10 years ago, repairing the road infrastructure, ensuring that you have a consistent flow of water, ensuring that the highways that you're used to, that they look good, ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to make life better for you. Because notwithstanding COVID, we are duty-bound to lift people out of poverty. We are duty-bound to ensure that we make life better for you, our people, and that is what we are about. And you know, we came to office, broken infrastructure, and I can go through the list. Indeed, all 30 constituencies were neglected by the Democratic Labour Party, including the ones that they had that they had responsibility for as sitting members of parliament. All 30 constituencies. When you walk around Barbados, if you go into Bridgetown and you see what been happening to the people of Murphy's Pasture area, where you had flooding, not one measure to alleviate flooding, but you're carrying Barbados Labour Party in a short couple of weeks will have the project at Murphy's Pasture resolved and we'll have it completed. And you know why we have to do it? Because we can't allow those people for over the last 10 years to have to endure flooding at the rate that they've had to endure. And you know what our response has been? To ensure we widen the drain there so that you wouldn't have to alleviate flooding, so you wouldn't have that challenge every time there's a heavy flow, every downpour of rain. That is what your caring Barbados Labour Party has done. And we went to Greenwich Road, and we said, listen, there was no drainage there. There was insufficient drainage there, and it will cause problems with flooding, and people's homes will be flooded. And your caring Barbados Labour Party went to Greenwich Road just off Hinesbury Road, and we are now putting in a box drain to flow straight into the Headley Land drain so that you don't have the flooding that the people were having. And I say to you, I visit there often, maybe fortnightly, and the residents compliment your Barbados Labour Party for the wonderful work that we are doing there. And that's only but an example. Look at the highways. When you drove around Barbados, you wouldn't believe that you're in Barbados. Weeds and every tree growing on the highway, you can believe it. Your Barbados Labour Party decided to put 70 workers back to work to ensure that there was a weeding program. And this happened before I became minister responsible for transport, works and water resources. So your Barbados Labour Party government has been working and working hard. And you have seen the difference when you walk around Barbados, and when you drive around the highways, you see the difference that your Barbados Labour Party is making in this country. And it's a phenomenal thing, because when you look at the road infrastructure and let's be frank, when you look at the road infrastructure in Barbados, can you believe that you had a government office for more than 10 years ago? Poor infrastructure, the roads are bad. And I say to you, I want to thank you for your patience. I want to say to you, we can't fix all, but we will fix a lot of roads in this term, because it is our job to make sure we have proper infrastructure and to ensure that you have, as pedestrians, good roads and paths to walk on, and you also, for the motorists, that you have good roads to drive on. And you can see that we are starting bit by bit, day by day, we are starting to improve the road infrastructure in Barbados. And I'm talking about highways. We are also developing community roads. Only Friday, I was in my office sitting down with the technical officials to ensure we have a road program between now and the end of December, say December 15th, that we have a timetable for roads to be constructed and milled and paved all across Barbados. And that is what we're doing. And it's not like some places where you can have all. We are sharing and spreading the work, including in St. George. And that is what your Barbados Labour Party government has been hard at work doing. And we go further. We say to you that we will commence in Scotland district roads next year. And it breaks my heart. I went down to Spa Hill with the Attorney General. I went over Cleavers Hill Bridge. I went all through these areas. And when I walk these areas and see what the people have had to endure for 10 years when the Democratic Labour Party members were in office and what they did to help the plight of the poor people, I say to you that they did little or nothing to improve the plight of poor people. But your government, your Barbados Labour Party government, recognized that we have a major problem with roads in the Scotland district. And you know what we did? We went out there. We negotiated a loan to ensure that we get roads and bridges for the people in the Scotland district. And when I say the Scotland district, I'm referring to St. Joseph, to St. John, to St. Andrew, and parts of St. Thomas. And believe you me, when you go in those areas and you see the roads that we are faced with, you have to ask yourself, can you imagine that you had a government in the Democratic Labour Party for the last 10 years? Did absolutely nothing to improve the road infrastructure in those areas. But your Barbados Labour Party government will get it done. and we have more. And because the contractors, whenever you meet with them, they tell the ministry that they want work. So there's no shortage of work, but we will ensure that the state of the roads will be, that we will improve the state and the conditions of roads. We can't get all done in this term, but I guarantee you we will get a lot done to alleviate some of the pain and the suffering that you've had to undergo. And in the Scotland district, and I know it sounds, when you put things in dollar terms, sometimes people ask you, are we really going to do it? But your Barbados Labour Party government will spend alone in the Scotland district $230 million Barbados dollars. So $230 million going into the Scotland district, so that when the people of St. Andrew and St. Joseph and St. John and parts of St. Thomas look around, they will see what their government in a short period will be doing on their behalf. And when you come to St. George, there's also a road plan, because we've built it into the CAF program, the CAF Phase 3 program, another $100 million that we are going to be spending, not only in St. George, but in all the other areas outside the Scotland district. We are going to be pumping another $100 million in roadworks. Believe you me when I tell you, next year when you see heavy-duty equipment crisscrossing Barbados, and when you see the little divergence and the inconvenience, I want you to bear with us. And you know why I want you to bear with us? Because we're going to fix the roads for you. You're going to have some dust. You're going to have some trenching work. You're going to have some inconvenience. But bear with us with the inconvenience. Work with us, because we have to fix the road infrastructure in Barbados. So that when we fix the road infrastructure, you can look at the Barbados Labour Party, you can look at your members of parliament, and you can say to them, thank you very much. Been long in coming, but at last we can see that you're making real progress, improving the quality of life for the people of Barbados, and that's what we're going to be doing. I also talked to you about measures to mitigate flooding, but I didn't tell you about the works being done by the drainage department, because within the drainage department, we have done a lot of work to clear water courses. We've done a lot of work to clean culverts. We've done that. And you know why we did it? We did it because we had to mitigate flooding, because as you can see, climate change has been impacting us. And at some periods, you have a very prolonged period of rain, and then on others, you have a very short but heavy and significant downpour. And sometimes the water will take a little while to in the past, will take a long time to run off. Your Barbados Labour Party went to work to clear water courses and culverts and drains to ensure that, notwithstanding a heavy downpour, that over a matter of hours, you will see the water running off. That is what your Barbados Labour Party has been hard at work doing. And there's still a lot of work to be done. And we intend to do more work in that area to mitigate flooding in Barbados. We have to do it because you elected us to make a difference in your lives. You sent us to Parliament to work hard on your behalf. And this is why we are pleased. And that is why I can stand here with my colleagues to report progress to you, because this is a party that believes in our people. This is a party that's committed to the development of Barbados, and a party that will continue to do very well for you, the people of Barbados. I didn't talk to you about sanitizing public transport. We undertook an initiative to ensure we sanitize the public transport fleet and all services connected to public transport to ensure we remain safe in the COVID-19 period. I didn't tell you about the street lights. Look at the highway, we've changed out all the lights on the highways from sodium to LED. And then we have another 26,000 street lights that we are changing out across Barbados, and more than 20,000 already completed. And I can also tell you that almost daily we are installing street lights where there were no street lights in Barbados and in your areas. And I know that you are seeing the difference that we are making. And I have to close. I don't have time to tell you about water, but you know what we're doing? We're working hard to lay new pipes, to lay new mains, to ensure you have a consistent and adequate supply of water. We are spending a lot of money because we believe that we must improve our infrastructure, and that you must have a proper supply of water on a consistent basis. But I can't leave St. George without telling you that how wonderful a sight it has been to see electric buses that your Barbados Labour Party went out and procured. Can you imagine that a Democratic Labour Party in office for 10 years didn't buy one bus? Not one bus. We came to office recognizing the challenges where people had to wait at bus stops for hours to get a bus. I say to you today, that when you have public transport working the way it's working, you know that your government has performed. We don't hear too many complaints, if any at all, about public transport anymore. But when we came to office, it was a major issue. So my point to you is, like what similar to what we've done with the procurement of electric buses, to ensure that we have 33 now. And I spoke last Sunday and I said to you, we have another 14 on the way. So that at the end, within another few months, we will have a total of 47 electric buses on the roads. And I might also add that we also have a TAP program enfranchising poor people of Barbados to ensure that they remain stakeholders in the public transport sector of Barbados. This is what your Barbados Labour Party has been doing for you. So we don't have many complaints about the buses. And soon from now, we won't have many complaints about the roads. And very shortly, we will be putting additional measures in place to alleviate flooding in Barbados. And I say to you, but we've only just begun. And believe you me, your Barbados Labour Party will continue hard. But I will leave you with this. Always remember that your Barbados Labour Party government will fight hard for you. We will go to work and work hard to bring progress and stability, but we will also work hard to ensure that you have a better quality of life. Mr. Chairman, I shall beg for a leave on this occasion to report on another occasion. I thank you.
All color, creed, and class, moving together, making mass. Oi, 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 something's happening, and it's so exciting. People just having fun, one big celebration, must be a really grand occasion. Oi, 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 something's happening.
Thank you, Wilfred. You've always been helpful to me. How are you doing today? Good. That's the man that caused Barbadians to drive and walk and traverse that Hastings main road free and easy without having to deal with the stench that the Democratic Labour Party forced us to deal with for a number of years. Wilfred Abrams. I see my candidate is also here. She's working very hard, looking a little tired, but she's working hard. She's working hard. How are you doing, Tony? Can I call you Tony? I call her Moore. You know, I must say to you, I might not have told you this before, but you have my vote. You have my vote. You have my vote. Good. That is the vote that will be called on the night of the 11th, when the returning officer says, more, 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 more. The last one will be me, because that's the first vote that will be cast, so it will come up last. You will be there. Now tonight, you know, Barbados has distinguished itself over the years in many different spheres. Whether you talk about the Right Excellent Sir Garfield Sobers, whether you talk about the Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow, or you can easily talk right now, in this time, about a triumvirate that has caused Barbados to stand tall, look great, and that triumvirate being Santia Bradshaw, Jeffrey Bostic and Mia Moore Motley for the handling of this COVID pandemic. Barbados stands tall. Stands tall. And because of the leadership of these three individuals, we must be proud. This is another moment in our history that forever should be marked. Now I bring to you this man, my good friend, the man who told you that Barbados and Barbadians shall never, never, never retreat. No retreat, no surrender. No retreat, no surrender. No retreat, no surrender. My friend, Mr. Bostic, Jeffrey Bostic, Colonel Jeffrey Bostic, come to the people. Come, 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 Jeffrey.
I only have 15 minutes, and they tell me to report on health. And if I had to report on health, it would take me the remainder of the day. But good afternoon, everyone. It was only a mere just short of 2.5 years that a ship called Barbados was seen drifting aimlessly off Carlisle Bay. Engine room not working, electricity low, sewage all over the place. Captain and crew abandoned ship. This ship could not even leave our territorial waters. Almost 2.5 years later, the ship is seaworthy again, sailing through the Caribbean Sea, the Atlantic Ocean, international oceans. Because this ship has a captain named Mia Motley at the helm, and a team of cabinet ministers working hard in the engine room. And when the captain thinks that the engine room not performing sufficiently enough, she comes down to the engine room and she gets her hands dirty and says, no, let me go faster than that. I'm not here to speak to you this afternoon about COVID because as difficult and as challenging as COVID has been, this Barbados Labour Party government, our performance in health must not be confined or be determined by COVID. COVID is just a challenge that we are overcoming each and every day. But our performance in health has to be determined by the transformational programs that we have started and we will continue to conduct in this country in order to take health care in this country where no other government has taken it before. So COVID is not going to define us. We will define COVID. I'm here to say that when I look at the Barbados Labour Party's manifesto, and I see the amount of things that are contained in that manifesto that we promised the people of Barbados that we will do, I am a very, very proud Barbadian as a result of that, a proud member of this Barbados Labour Party. I'm proud to be Minister of Health and Wellness. And I say that because what is leading the charge for us is the fact that we said to people in this country who we are in the covenant of hope. And for us, the manifesto is not just promises. We match those promises with performances. And I'm here to report on some of those performances this afternoon. Let me start with the polyclinics in this country, where a lot of the services are offered. And I would say to you that back in 2017, we recorded about 213 visits to polyclinics, 213,000, for the year 2017. By the end of 2018, it was 254,000. By the end of 2019, it was 275,000. So if you look at the trajectory, you will recognize that more and more persons in Barbados are using the polyclinics because we are doing what we're supposed to do for the polyclinics. We told you that we were going to do something at the Accident and Emergency Department, and that was started with some internal reorganization and restructuring and systems put in place to alleviate the length of the burden that people suffered having to wait for hours in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital Accident and Emergency. Well, you can see when you pass there that the project is on. Walls are going up. And by February or so next year, you will have a new wing of the Accident and Emergency Department. And they said a new wing because after that we will refurbish the old Accident and Emergency Department. So by the end of the project, the Accident and Emergency Department will go from about 8,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet. And there will be a significant increase in the number of services that are being offered there, with more room, more facilities, more equipment, more everything. Man, we are moving. The Barbados Labour Party is transforming. I want to say to you that one of the major planks in our manifesto for health is how we deal with and treat the NCDs, chronic non-communicable diseases, hypertension, diabetes, cancer, because they are still the leading cause of death in this country. And this government was determined to change the trajectory because it kept going that way with cancer, heart attacks, strokes, hypertension. And so we determined that we were going to take our services into the community. And that is why only last week I was able to launch the QEHS program for community health workers, 40 of them to go into the communities to help the 500 worst patients in terms of their conditions and the management of their NCDs, to help them to be able to manage the NCDs, and that was launched last week. We are going to the people. And the reason for that is because we've worked out that it is more expensive to treat people at the QEH than if we deal with them before they have to go to the QEH. That makes sense. I'm happy to report also that we have a national cardiac project that we've started to work on, which will also help us to reduce the incidence of deaths caused by heart attacks in this country. We have to bring those figures down because people matter, Barbadians matter, people's lives matter in this country to us. So that in the not too distant future, you will see all of our ambulances equipped with the equipment. And those of you who are old enough like me to remember the movie on CBC, the series called Emergency, when in the back of the ambulances, the emergency technicians had all the equipment to do all the work and send the information to the Accident and Emergency Department. Man, we having that here just now, man. We're spending $300,000 to make sure that we do all of this work and train the persons at the the EMT technicians to be able to do the work. And we are also going to operationalize the cardiac suite at the QAH that has been there idle for several years by increasing the staff, training people so that we have the various specialties, and also changing out equipment to be able to do some modern work. This is what the Barbados Labour Party government is doing and will continue to do. And talking about equipment, we put in a plea even in COVID times and even with the challenges facing the government, we mean in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, QH, to be able to change out a lot of the old equipment from the hospital. We asked for $30 million. We couldn't get all. But I'm happy to say that the QH was given $18.5 million to purchase new equipment for the QEH, the most money that that institution has ever had in its history to purchase new equipment. The Barbados Labour Party government at work. Repairing our health infrastructure. This has been a challenge for years. We started to do that. We've done work at the St. Lucie District Hospital and Elaine Bourne Center, both in St. Lucie. We've done some remedial work at Winston Scott Polyclinic. We've done a bit, not enough yet, at the Geriatric Hospital on Beckles Road. We are working now, and we're almost finished getting one of the wards at the St. Philip District Hospital back into operation that will facilitate at least another 90 elderly care patients for that hospital. These are the things that we are doing. The Albert C. Graham Children Development Center required a lot of work, and we have almost finished that now, including the replacement of the roof and other remedial works to other parts of that facility for our children who need that facility for their development. And I'm happy to say that on November 9th, that facility will be reopening with the swimming pool being refurbished, and so that the children of this country can use the facility thanks to the government of Barbados, Barbados Labour Party government. 5 minutes? Oh gosh, all right. I gotta swim fast here. Human resources. In fact, let me go back into the communities. I must speak to this one. When I became Minister of Health and Wellness, my first brief, I was told that the community outpatient clinic at Horse Hill, St. Joseph, and the one at St. Andrew were to be closed. I said no, because the mandate that was given to me by the Prime Minister and what we said in the manifesto was that we were increasing community participation and community health care. So how could we be closing down 2 community clinics? I know the people at Horse Hill have been suffering recently because of COVID protocols and restrictions, but I want to say to you this afternoon that we are in the process of doing a bit of redesigning of the plan to refurbish the community clinic at Horse Hill, and we intend to do that during this financial year. And then we will move on to St. Andrew, and especially when we have enough funding to be able to do so. Human resources was a problem. Shortage of this, shortage of that. Nursing shortage, yes. We said we will recruit nurses from overseas, and we brought in 95 from Ghana. We recognized that the pass rate was really low for Barbadians graduating from community college when it came to the regional examination. And we spent 2 months investigating that and trying to get to the bottom of it. And we've been able to get to the bottom of it to the extent that the last class graduated with a pass rate of almost 70% of those persons. Human resources. We have gone in the direction now of having specialist nurses, and those positions have been created, and we are almost finished our discussions with Chamberlain University, which is affiliated to Ross University, and UWI, so that we can offer the training for those specialist nursing positions, including but not limited to the family nursing practitioner, which we will be introducing into this country. And I want to I couldn't leave here without thanking the Prime Minister for the appointments that we just got on November 1st. Why? Because I went and I found a Hollywood ministry with everybody acting. And I'm so happy that out of the 3,000 public servants who were recently appointed, about 1/3, 1,000 are from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, people who are out there on the front line. They deserve it. I only have 2 minutes, so I can't really get into all the other things, but let me say this here to you, though. Let me tell you this. We are going to transform healthcare, and we will roll out some of these plans as time goes on, including the National Cancer Plan, including the National Nutrition Plan, especially as it relates to children, fighting obesity, fighting NCDs. These are the things that this government will be doing. And I am really happy to be part of this Barbados Labour Party family, to be part of this government. And I, as Minister of Health, I am inspired by the boss who works 24/7. And if she can work 24/7, I mean, I have to work 24/8. And this is the essence of the Barbados Labour Party stewardship in this country. If Lulu said in her song, To Sir With Love, she wanted to thank Sir for taking them from crayon to perfume, I want to say it. I thank you, Prime Minister, for taking us from having sewage on the streets, bush on the streets, garbage on the streets, to having buses on the road, garbage trucks on the road, and our Barbadian students going back to the University of the West Indies. And we may forget, and this may look as though it is nothing. It's less short of 2.5 years we've been in office. And my final point, and I'll say it for my honorable colleague, Ian Goodenedgel, who ran out of time. You see the water situation, if you're from St. John, St. Joseph, St. Lucie, St. Thomas, wherever. No retreat, no surrender. We ain't running away from that either. You still have the problems, but I'm here to tell you we are facing it frontally. We are assaulting this problem because we are pouring millions of dollars into solving this problem so that by the end of December or before Christmas, you will have water running in your constituencies. This is the Barbados Labour Party. We don't only talk, we do. This is a government that does exactly what it said it's going to do because, as we said in the Covenant of Hope, this is who we are. The party that cares. Thank you very much. I wish I had some more time. One love. Keep the shirt on. No retreat. No surrender.
Coming with a plan to give every man and woman a chance. It's Chef Free Boss Tech. Yeah. Chef Free Boss Tech. Chef Free Boss Tech. Chef Free Boss Tech. Be ready. Who is the man coming with a plan to give every man and woman a chance? It's Chef Free Boss Tech. Yeah. Chef Free Boss Tech. Chef Free Boss Tech. Chef Free Boss Tech. Be ready. Be ready. Be ready. Be ready. The time has come to save Barbados from all the negative. We bring in Jeffrey Boss Tech.
No retreat. No retreat. No retreat. I'm going to bring you a young gentleman who has created a stir, not just here in Barbados, not just regionally, but also internationally. A young, talented, energetic Barbadian talent, Damien Marvey.
Good evening. Sing it up. I never see so much obstacles before. I got to pray some more. I got to try to forget about it. I never say a perfect, and yes, I fall, but I gonna give. See, my journey will never go in vain, no. And that's why I got to push. Push and go through, you must push. Push and go through, you must push. When my fire burn, you can see it from miles away. And the light from the flame is called my destiny. The road might be a little muddy, but cut and go through like Juve. Along the way I might stumble, but remain humble. I'm not ashamed to say that yes, I fall, but I'm gonna gain. See, my journey will never go in vain, no. Yes, I fall, but I rise again. See, this journey will never go in vain, no. That's why I must fall. All that we going through on this corona time, right? Every day is a battle to wake up and push. Sing it with me. I never see so much obstacles before. I gotta pray some more. I gotta try to forget about it. So then we go back to me jump, 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 jump. It's hard to do a little movie, you see, you know. Yeah, Bob, yes. My greatest concern is to not live in misery. So it's best I jam cause we have a chemistry. Been doing this a long, long time. It's my remedy for peace of mind. Yeah, and even if you stumble, just remain humble. I'm not ashamed to say that yes, I fall, but I'm gone again. See, my journey will never go in vain, no. Yes, I fall, but I rise again. See, this journey will never go in vain, no. You must push, you gotta push, you must push and go through all the way, yeah. I never see so much obstacles before. I gotta pray some more. I gotta try to forget about it. So let me go back to the jump. Yes, Carol. Jump. People raise their hand and want you sing this for me. And yes, I fall, but I gone again. Yeah. See, my journey will never go in vain. No. You must push. Yeah. People, big at yourself. Much love. We can be strong again and again.
I was going to come there and join Marve on stage, but I didn't drink my honey today, so I'm going to leave it out. But I will drink some honey later. Hold tight. Thank you. It was just a little housekeeping matters we were trying to take care of there. Thank you for your patience. And I must also thank you for recognizing and observing the protocols and wearing your mask and so on. Yes, very much so. Beautiful. Good behavior, very good behavior. I know that you are doing that specifically because the Colonel is here. Good people. I bring to you the next speaker, the campaign manager for this by-election, the parliamentary representative for the constituency of St. George South. And I'm going to say this now that I'm not asking the minister to report on his ministry. I want to hear from him about the status of this campaign so that we know where we are going, and what we need to do to get across the line first. Dwight Sunderland.
Dwight Sunderland. God, Dwight, he does check for everybody. Dwight does check for everybody. We voting for Dwight Sunderland. God, Dwight, he does check for everybody. Dwight does check for everybody. We voting for Dwight again. Put your hands for Dwight again. We voting for Dwight again.
Good evening, Barbados Labour Party family. It's indeed a privilege to address the gathering at our annual conference. And at the outset, let me say a special good evening to some guests who are here from the UK, of Barbadian heritage. Emerson Boyce, a footballer, and his team from that city called Wigan. I want you to give him a warm round of applause. And he's here to speak to both the Minister of Education and myself. Good things are happening by this government led by Mayor Amor Montley. But I'm here this afternoon not to talk about the good things that are happening in my ministry, and indeed there are good things happening. But I'm sorry to disappoint you. Tony Moore, you saw her. She left her seat minutes ago and she came to me, sitting there as I prepared to gain my composure to speak to you. And she gave me a speech, and I will attempt to read it. The start of democracy and workers' rights is in. Let me finish now. Let me finish. I think I got the pages mixed up. 3 or 4. Only vision of founding fathers of BLP and BUW, no, WU. Tony, you can finish for me? Tony, Moore, you can finish for me? All right, she can finish for me. Thank you, Tony, for preparing the speech. I come prepared, and you prepared it. Good evening. We are at St. George Secondary School, a place where history was created some years ago, back in the year 2012. And we're here this afternoon again because we're going to create history in St. George North. Let me just say, it is clear that the first thing this Labour Party did back then, after the 1937 riots, was to champion the cause of workers' rights in this country. We saw the need to empower working class people. Hence, the formation of the Barbados Workers' Union. There was a marriage between the Labour Party and the Barbados Workers' Union back in the late 1930s and the early 1940s. And in 1941, we saw the birth of the Barbados Workers' Union. And we are here to create history again. And I want to say that while we are going to have Tony Moore as the standard bearer for this great party in St. George North, we have to recognize that in 2018, my good friend and one of my mentors, Glenn Clark, created history in St. George North. He was the first candidate to gain over 4,800 votes in the national election. And I want you to clap for that. So we are about creating history in St. George. We did it in the south, and we are going to do it in the north. The start of democracy and the fight for workers' rights is in the bosom of this great institution, the Barbados Labour Party. And when we go to the polls on November the 11th, there are a few things we have to consider. Tony Moore is no rookie. Tony Moore is indeed the first female history again that will be elevated to represent St. George North in the House of Parliament. She will create history again. She might not have been the first female to lead a trade union, but she will be the first after some over 50 years since independence to bring back that marriage between labor and this great institution called the Barbados Labour Party. But I want you to consider a few things as we approach the 11th of November. We speak about homegrown representation that you can feel, that is genuine, that you can touch. And I can raise my hand. I am not only from St. George, but I'm of St. George. I'm of working class. The vision for this Labour Party is to elevate people like Tony Moore to the House of Assembly. Persons from humble origins. Persons who are grounded in the philosophy of this great institution of empowering working class people. So when we go to the polls, we have no choice. If we truly love this great institution, and if we truly want to represent this great institution, and if we truly want to maintain the leadership that we have seen under Prime Minister Mayor Amor Motley, we cannot take any chances as we go to the polls on the 11th. I can tell you all about the wonderful things that the ministry is doing, but I want to tie in everything with St. George North. The Democratic Labour Party had 10 years, and we call them the DLP. They destroy their devils and their demons. That is what we call them. They destroy this country. I know you're coming to St. George North to ask us as a people to give your candidate a chance to walk up those steps to the lower house. That ain't happening but here. Me, Amor Motley, and the Barbados Labour Party, we have a vision to enfranchise and empower working class people. We are on a mission to put people back to work, to create employment opportunities among our people, while the opponents are focusing on creating a volunteer army. You heard them talk about volunteerism. At a time when people are suffering in this country and we are looking to put people back to work. So when you go to the polls, St. George North, you have to consider employment versus volunteerism. I have no difficulty with volunteerism, but we are at a delicate stage and we are poised in our economy that we have to put people back to work. But I will say to you, the people of St. George, we have to consider the last 30 months, and I heard Minister Bostic, my good friend, speak about some of the things we are doing in his ministry to create a good social care system, healthcare system in this country. But when you look at St. George North and St. George South, I am proud to report to you this afternoon, and I am going too deep into the ministry, that within the last 30 months, we have started in St. George 284 small businesses. 284 small businesses. How we did that? Mayor Amor Motley saw it fit to invest in the skills and the ideas of the ordinary Barbadian, to create that entrepreneurial ethos that is nationally pervasive and driven by international foresight. And she gave the people of St. George the opportunity to go down the Harbor Road and borrow money. Invest in seed capital to start your own businesses. And I can break it down for you. Out of the 284 businesses that I've started, 127 are female businesses, and 157 are male businesses. I want you to clap the Labour Party for that. The next thing to consider when we go to the polls is the difference between the leadership of the two parties. They have others in the race. But people are voting, as Minister Bosick said, my colleague. We are looking at a country that was destroyed and that was placed in the rut, that was spiraling. And we have taken it out of the doldrums through good leadership, astute leadership, decisive leadership. And that is why Mayor Amor Morley is asking the people of St. George North to give her Tony Moore. Because we need more decisive leadership. We need more of Mayor Amor Morley's leadership. We need more in Mayor Morley's team. We need more of the Labour Party in St. George North. Therefore, we have no choice but to vote for Tony Moore on the 11th. But I want us to understand that as we travel around St. George North, and indeed St. George like to feel, St. George people, they like to feel their representatives. This is not about having meetings via Zoom, and I said so at Roach Village the other night. You have a party that is seeking to represent you in the lower house, and they can't knock on your doorstep, but they want to reach you through Zoom. St. George North is within 166 square miles. A very small constituency, relative, and Emerson Boyce can tell you that St. George North is the size of a sporting complex in Europe, and you want to reach your people by Zoom? That is how you want to talk to the people in St. George North, by Zoom? Well, I have Tony Moore. Look at her. She looks tired. Someone says she should rest. She's going to every single house, and you can feel the concerns and the issues radiating on the doorsteps, radiating in the houses, and radiating on the streets. She's interested in the people, so we don't want to reach them by Zoom. The only thing we will tell you by Zoom is where to come to meet us on a Thursday and on a Sunday night. We will walk and touch every single constituent. There are over 2,000 households, and we have a plan to reach every single one of them in this campaign, and not by Zoom. But I want to tell the people of St. George North what to do. I don't need so much time, because my wife tells me the shorter the time, the sweeter it is. I don't need 15 minutes. So I don't need so much time. I can finish now. We need as a people to understand that giving St. George North Tony Moore is not only about creating history. Giving St. George South Tony Moore is about giving us someone to do the heavy lifting for this party. We recognize that this country will only go forward through innovation and technology. That is how we will become world class. And we have the minister here sitting in front of me, my sister. Innovation and technology will take us to the next level. But you know what? We have to empower our people. We have to find ways to put our people back to work. We have to address some of the issues in this country, whether it is the issues of accessing finance, whether it is the issues of our people being recognized as being bankable. These are some of the issues, and who we have to work with, the trade union movement. So we need Tony Moore in this cabinet, in this parliament. I ain't sure if she can get in the cabinet. That ain't up to me. That is a slip. That is up to the prime minister. That's her will, whether she have me in it or if she put me out. So, but we know it is the will of the people to put Tony Moore into the parliament of this country. And I know that they will do it, the people of St. George. So things to consider in this election is your future and your children's future and the country's future, and where we will position Barbados on that world stage. And we have started to do it, but we need good people to help us do the heavy lifting. I want at this stage to pause and congratulate my cabinet colleagues and members of parliament who have done a remarkable job. Because Mayor Amor Motley recognized she had to pick a team for the times. She had to pick a team for the times. And you heard Minister Bostic, Ian Goodin-Edgell, Minister Edgell, and you heard Minister Dugid, and there are many more sitting in front of me who have done a lot of heavy lifting. We need Tony St. George North. And I can say to you, as I travel around St. George North, we are looking good. And we have to make Tony Moore the standard bearer for this great institution, the Barbados Labour Party. And we have to give Glenn Clark what he requested. Glenn Clark said he wants to win big. And he wants the people of St. George North to go out in their numbers and vote for Tony Moore on the 11th. I say no more to you. Tony will say the others bit. So we'll bring more shortly to minister to you. She's a preacher as well. She's a woman of God. And we got people walking about talking about they don't go to church. And they ain't went to church for how long and where you want them to go to church. But I say to you that we put God first in whatever we do. And that's why Tony Moore is here where she is today, because she's blessed and she's a woman of God. So let them go there and talk about them only going to church for so. But we go to church for a reason. And even if we don't go to church, we involve God in everything we do. So in closing, my colleagues, stay focused. This was not about my ministry. This is not about me. This is about Tony Moore. This is about the people of St. George North. This is about the 11th of November, when we indeed will celebrate, when we have a new parliamentary representative in a female, in a woman, a powerful woman, a dynamic woman in Tony Moore. God bless you and thank you.
The one who sits high and he looks down low. And if you ever miss the man with the anger, the one who's got the tiger, then you'll be someone that he don't know. Say a prayer and chant a psalm.
Yeah. Wish you could have given me a little piece more of that song, but yeah. We're going to keep it going. We're going to keep it going. We have to make sure we stick to the time, exercise, continue to exercise our discipline. The next speaker is Carrie Simmons.
Ask me why you're smiling and always feel like styling. Right next to Carrie Simmons is where you will find me. And the posse doing Dixie. His plans, they got me tipsy. Now's the time to get through, so this is what we do. This is what we do. Rolling with Carrie Simmons. This is what we do. Voting for Carrie Simmons. This is what we do. Rolling with Carrie Simmons.
Pleasant good evening to you, Labour Party family. Are we winning? Okay, I can't hear you. Are we winning? Are we winning big? By 1,000? Not good enough. By 2,000? We need more. I'm a greedy man. By 3,000? Sounds more like it. Ladies and gentlemen, John King called me and told me that I have to speak to you this evening at this rally, and that I have to talk to you about what happened when I was Minister of Tourism. I said, but John King, everybody know what happened when I was Minister of Tourism. He said, well, don't mind, you gotta come and talk about it. So I am here to tell you that we can talk. Now, there are two things that we can talk about, really, because there are two schools. There's the school that was practiced and followed by the man that I had the painful experience of replacing, that man called Richard Seeley. And for him, tourism in Barbados was about arrivals numbers. It was very similar to what happened in 560, the year 560 before Christ, when a man called Pythagoras ran out of a Colosseum
He ran out of a coliseum shouting to the world, numbers, numbers, I have discovered everything turns on numbers. And that was the Richard Seeley approach to tourism. And if you want to talk numbers, let me say to you that in the year 2019, Labour Party family, we received the highest number of arrivals in the history of Barbados out of the United Kingdom. In the year 2019, Labour Party family, we received the highest number of arrivals in Barbados out of United States of America. In the year 2019, the cruise arrivals to Barbados were the highest ever recorded in the history of Barbados. And more importantly, the amount of money calculated by the statisticians as to what was spent by tourists in Barbados in 2019 was the most ever recorded in the history of Barbados. Having said that, if I was Richard Seeley, I would then be able to say, as they say in the Book of Common Prayer, here endeth this afternoon's lesson. Thanks be to God, this is the word of the Lord, and you, the congregation, should say thanks be to God. But there has to be something more fundamental in the developmental process of this country than us just looking at numbers. There has to be something that tells us that the main industry of the island is able to continue in the future and to sustain our collective development. In other words, there has to be an intellectual discussion about how the main industry that fuels the economy of Barbados is able to continue to do the work that it has to do. I want you to put your hands together this evening for a lady called Mia Amor Motley, because she understood that which several prime ministers in Barbados failed to understand. And I was privileged to have her by my side as we proceeded on a course to try to build a new vision for this country in this vital sector that we call the tourism industry. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is not a hard thing to understand. You cannot have any industry on which your country relies primarily, and that industry works for 5 or 6 months when the year comes. But that's not a hard thing to understand. California is the 5th largest economy of the world, driven by entertainment, music, and film. But they don't do it for 5 months and then down tools. They don't do it for 6 months and then done with that. There are economies that are driven by oil and gas. But they pump oil and gas from January to December, though. They don't do it for 5 or 6 months. And the mistake that we have done is to allow ourselves to be boxed into a corner because somebody who believed that they had wisdom more than anyone else tell us that we are a warm weather destination. But Barbados is more than that. And the developmental path and trajectory of the Labour Party is that whether or not you're looking at it from a small business perspective, whether you're looking at it from an energy perspective, whether you're looking at it from the perspective of those who are involved in foreign trade, manufacturing sector, every aspect of Barbados' economy and culture, we want our people to see themselves as a part of civilization. It is not a warm weather escape or getaway. We are an indelible part of human civilization, demonstrating to the world, this small country, what good standard of living can be about. And that is the philosophical difference between that which this administration presents and that which the other people have presented to you. But what does it mean to you and all of the people in St. George North who we are asking to vote? It means, therefore, that the taxi driver does not come to a point after 6 months of the year when you ain't got no more work, but that you build out a tourism product that lasts for 12 months of the year. It means that people like John King, who cut his teeth in entertainment and in culture, will not have work for 5 or 6 months when the year comes, John, but that you have a 52-week calendar of events and activities. It means, ladies and gentlemen, that those people who are in the restaurant sector and the hotel sector don't get laid off at the end of August and told come back and look for Little Pig again in December. But meantime, they got to find a way to feed the children. Meantime, they got to find a way to send school the little children. Meantime, they got to find a way to pay the mortgage. It is about human development in 2020, where we do not box ourselves into a box that says we are less than what we are. But beyond that, it also is about investment. The conversation about investment has not been had by the Democratic Labour Party in this country, comrades. But me and Motley came and told you that I got a town planning act which was older than she was. And she is 54, going 55. I thought she might be 55 now. My town planning act was older than her. But what does it mean to look at the town planning act and put it in a context of our future development? It meant that we had to understand that people who come here and spend little money on building a hotel do not see the return on investment that they would be expecting to see in other parts of the world, because we had prohibitions how high you could build the building. We are a small island with limited space for footprint. So if you tell a man who come in and spend $200 million or $300 million that you can't build more than 4 stories, he can tell you, well, how long does it take for me to see the return on that investment? Well, if I go to Jamaica, they allow me to build 8 and 10 stories. So we had to change that. The other thing we had to do was to create this thing that you call planning gains, so that a man who is coming to make an investment of millions of dollars, but next to a working class ghetto district, what the Democratic Labour Party will call a slum, that the occupants of the working class district do not feel a sense of antagonism towards the investor. That signal you just gave me, Shanika, says what? I just see 10 fingers. Good. So that it means that the occupant of that working class district does not feel a sense of antagonism towards the foreign investor. How could he feel if in 2020, as we have in all of our constituencies, there's a case where he's still using the pit latrine outside? How could he feel in 2020, as we have in all of our constituencies, where he picks his way home between a path that is overgrown by bush and there's poor street lighting? These are fundamental changes that still have to take place in Barbados. But he look across the road and see $300 million in investment plant there, but nothing do for him. So me and Motley said, like any good democratic socialist would say, but whole star that can't work. What has to happen, Ambassador? Good to see you, sir. Amigo mío, ¿cómo está? She says, this can't work. This is about making sure that we use the opportunity of the investment to have a spillover benefit for the people of the constituencies in Barbados. And so therefore, those of you in the city, you would have heard Colonel Bostic tonight, this evening. But Jeffrey Bostic is about to have a Hyatt built in his constituency, right across from one of the biggest pockets of poverty in the country. The planning gains that his constituents must benefit from is that there must be a percentage of that which is being invested, diverted to make sure that there is opportunities for people who live in the city of Bridgetown, opportunities for work. Jeffrey is keep noise about that all the time. So that we have a provision made for small vendors to be working right in the footprint of the Hyatt. Unprecedented. There ain't a hotel in Barbados that builds so. No one. Me and Motley in there, she come back and tell you that you got then to make some provision for sporting facilities. Because there's no big law playing fields in that area, Jeffrey. But you need to have some hard courts, though. And you got to put some lights upon them, though. So you create sporting opportunity as a byproduct of the investment. Not done in Barbados before. Labour Party people, you understand what we're talking about? We're talking about transforming the life of the people who put us in government.
by way of creatively using investment in Barbados. Not to be satisfied, she turned and said, Kurt Humphrey, you have fish markets that got to get fixed. So therefore, we want the investor to plow back some money towards helping us get small, black, working class fishermen who are the lesser lights of the economic constellation, or so we have been told, to give them an opportunity to uplift that which they do. And it is through that process that fish markets start then to get to be developed and redeveloped and brought into the 21st century. And if you want to see it holistically, ladies and gentlemen, it is a one government approach. It is only when we get to the point that we are reconstructing what we do in those same fish markets that we are then able to do what we have never been able to do in the history of Barbados. And that is to take the fish that we have in abundance and sell them into foreign markets. When Billy Miller, who sits before me now, Dame Billy, was foreign minister, and I worked with her in the ministry as Minister of State, the Europeans came here and expected all the markets in Barbados, all comrades. And they left us in 2007 and said, we will buy all that you can sell, but you have to be able to guarantee the sanitary and phytosanitary conditions. The conditions under which the fish are maintained. You can't take it off of ice and bring it down to the temperature here in this room today. Let the flies buzz upon it. You got a wooden table that you're resting on, and the blood from last month still in the crevices of the table. You need to have steel tables and wash down basins and minimum temperatures. All of those things they were told since 2007. Bridgetown Market, Oysters Market, Sixman St. Peter, Paynes Bay St. James. Do you know that those worthless, good for nothing, disgraceful, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but you know that 10 years passed and nothing was done. Nothing was done. But then their campaign, they had the temerity, they had the unbridled audacity, when election called last election, to walk all about Barbados and tell people, we are here on behalf of the poor man. The same poor man that they turned their back on and turned their face and set it like flint against the progress and the opportunity. But it ain't only hurt the poor man. It hurt the pocket of all the taxpayers in Barbados, whether rich or poor, because you can't get in a foreign exchange. And you remember when we were lining up in Barbados to get a little foreign exchange? All of that done with now. And I'm pleased to say that Cabinet last week, or week before in there, had a lengthy discussion on this matter, and that the sanitary and phytosanitary issues in Barbados are about to come to an end. All the technical work is done. The implementation is there. The Minister of Finance, who the same Prime Minister telling you about, is ready to roll out the money. Let us get on with uplifting the life of the poor people. By and done there, because that ties itself back into the same tourism I start talking about, and why Kurt Humphrey would tell you. Now, when I was there, I would humbug Kurt, because the people want to live like we live. The people do not come here to sit down in a five-star hotel and look over the wall, or sit on a board, surfboard, stand on a surfboard in the translucent waters of Carlisle Bay and paddle the surfboard. They don't come for that, you know. They come here to experience the culture. They come here to go in the fish market and buy little fish. What does it mean to bone a flying fish? How do you do that? I want to learn how to do that. How do you scale a flying fish? I want to learn how to do that. I want to stand in a Moses and throw a net and let me fall in the water. But that is life in Barbados as we know it and as they want to experience it. And when all of the studies are done, that's what comes back at you. But you can't get that done unless you organize it in a whole government system. Are you with me, Labour Party family? But the reason that could not happen is because, well, this evening, you may say people on this platform who don't always be the best of friends. There are times when we robustly disagree in cabinet, and times when we agree that if we are, but make a glue, but we work together. You remember the Democratic Labour Party when David Eswett told Chris Sinclair or wrote a letter saying to his staff, do not attend any meetings called by the Minister of Finance, Chris Sinclair? You remember that? I can't hear you. You're forgetting. Is it Alzheimer's setting in? That happened. That happened. Do not attend any meeting convened by Christopher Sinclair, the Minister of Finance, unless you have my prior permission. That was life as we endured it under Flanders Stewart and the Dems. And that don't stir under Mayor Motley and the Barbados Labour Party. No, I want to go a little further, because I want to tell you about the fact that we can't talk seriously and intellectually about the main sector of the economy without also talking about its sustainability. Unfortunately, I succeeded a man who didn't even know what sustainable tourism was. I saw the file where you write to somebody who wrote to him, Minister, you may wish to be aware of the concerns of over-tourism in some parts of the world. Please see for your benefit and advise your position. The man write back, what is over-tourism? Meanwhile, all across Europe, there are people who are experiencing deterioration of their social circumstances because tourists were coming in and you didn't structure the way in which you had the involvement of the tourists and the spatial balance that congregate. We can't just allow everybody to come and go to Browns Beach. It would destroy Browns Beach. You have to have these spatial balances. This country has benefited because of the work that Mayor Motley has done in a position of leadership, offering guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, she has just graced us with her presence. She has come here to participate in this exercise, and I want you to welcome her roundly. Now, I want, therefore, to say to you in closing, that there be more opportunities to elaborate on these things. I am not here to give the feature speech. She is. You're here to hear me. You're here to hear her. But I want to leave this place by asking you one thing. Stand strong, Labour Party family, in the teeth of all of the antagonism and opposition. This Labour Party is in the middle of a by-election, and we must go forth in strength and go forward in unity to a victory on behalf of Tony Moore. Good afternoon, and God bless you all.
Things rough. Are this it right? P to the L to the P party. You listening?
Switch on.
Then out, be sing. Then out, be sing. Now go to the polls and vote. Call the DLP is a joke. Listen up. Then out, me a in. Then out, me a in. Now go to the polls and vote. Call the DLP is a joke. The DLP with the waffles. You better go. Things rough. Are this it right? P to the L to the P party. You listening?
Switch off.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marvey again, and this is the beautiful, talented Risa Garns. We're going to do a song dedicated, commemorated to the honorable candidate for St. George North, Miss Tony Moore.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy it.
We want more, yeah, more, we want more, Tony Moore.
Yeah.
It is her destiny to shine. She's ready for the challenge.
Putting people first each time. She's ready to
want more. People singing, we want more. Me are asking, we want more. People singing, we want more. 'Cause she never don't, she never don't, she never don't, Tony never don't, she never don't, she never don't, Tony never don't, she never don't. We really need her, 'cause what she brings will strengthen me as head.
A heavy lifter, helping me to carry this beautiful life.
She will fight for our rights to dream, dedicated to the people. St. John, Tony is here for real to treat everyone as equal. Give us more, me and more. St. George North, this is family. We want more, me and more. Our Tony more, she belongs to we. We want more. People singing, we want more. Me asking, we want more. People singing, we want more. 'Cause she never don't, she never don't, she never don't, Tony never don't, she never don't, she never don't, Tony never don't, she never don't. We want more. We want more. We want more. We want more.
'Cause she never don't, never don't, never don't.
Ladies and gentlemen, stand on your feet, Tony
never
Moore.
don't, never don't, Tony never don't,
Tony
never don't. Everyone give it up for Miss Tony Moore.
Good afternoon to the Barbados Labour Party Conference. Good afternoon, everybody. Give it up for my team, Team Moore. It's very seldom that I am lost for words, but this journey over the last 4 weeks, has been filled with many moments where I felt lost for words. And I'm lost for words because there is an expectation in Barbados. There's an expectation across St. George North, I am sensing that our people have hope. Our people are expressing that they want more. And with each expression, with each conversation, with the knowledge that our people are seeing in their leadership, are expecting in their leadership more, it places pressure, yes, but it also raises my anticipation, my commitment, my dedication to you, the people of St. George North, and the people of Barbados. And that's why this afternoon, even although a migraine headache would have wanted to keep me away from here, I could not resist the opportunity. I could not refuse the opportunity, and I had to rise above that to make it here this afternoon. I know the chairman was saying that I look tired, but when I have a migraine, it shows in my eyes. I know this is enough eyes here, so I can't hide it. But I'm thrilled this evening, and I'm honored, I'm humbled to be here. I'm humbled at the opportunity to be able to speak to you. And I started off in Market Hill, but this afternoon, I want to say a big thank you. I want to say a thank you, first of all, to our Prime Minister for making all of this possible, for seeing past where I would not allow my eyes to go, for having a vision of what Barbados needs for these times, and for pursuing that vision. And yes, she had to pursue that vision to get a Tony Moore here on this platform, and to be embarking on a journey which I hope would be a journey of long and outstanding service to you, the people of St. George North. For when I became the General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union 6 years ago, mine was the expectation that I would not have to pursue political involvement to serve people. I do not think that I was naive in any way. I regard myself as being genuine and true to myself in everything that I do. So I really did not believe that I would need to do this to make a difference in the lives of working men and women and their families. And that is why I stand here so humbled, because when the Prime Minister suggested to me the first time, the second time, the third time that I needed to do this, and while she was explaining all along, and not only the Prime Minister, but Saroy, from even before I became General Secretary of the BWU, he expressed to me that a natural path in leadership in a trade union movement had to be political involvement. And although I resisted, these are two people that all along the way never gave up on showing me or pointing me in a particular direction. And St. George North, I want to have a conversation with you, particularly this afternoon. I know I'm in a conference setting, and I believe last night I spoke to the conference. But this afternoon, to the people of St. George North, I not only want to say thank you to our Prime Minister, but I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to you as we stand here just over 2 weeks to go before a by-election. And I want to say thank you to you because you have made this experience more meaningful for me than I ever imagined it would have been. And you presented to me moments in my life that I will not forget. Service is something that I believed I know. Service is something that I've grown up on. It has been my diet. But the opportunity to come to you as I've been visiting your houses, visiting your families, as I've been having discussions with you. You've been sharing with me the burdens that you are carrying, the hopes that you have for your children, the aspirations for your young teens, and so on. It has inspired me, and it has buoyed my commitment to this journey. And it has strengthened my determination that with your will being expressed on November 11th this year, that will be the beginning of a long and abiding journey with you. I've been saying thank you to many of you, even when you've told me, Tony, you don't need to come here. I don't know what Glenn Clark bringing you here for, because Glenn knows where we stand. But I've been saying to you, Glenn knows, but it is important for me to know where I stand. And I've been heartened by many of you who have said, I vote Labour, I voted Glenn, but there are numerous among you who have said, I'm voting for Tony as well. Because in you, Tony, we see opportunity. In you, we know that there's one who will fight for us. In you, we see the chance to strengthen the community that so many of us have been talking about. And so that has fortified my fight. It has strengthened me even on days when physical strength will want to give out. Because not only the hours, but Prime Minister, the sun. But with each day and with each knock that I make on a door and I'm received by you, those things seem not to matter as I feel energized for the journey ahead. So I want to say to you this afternoon, as I say to you, thank you. I want you who are here to be able to speak to the many others of the constituency of St. George North who are not present today. As you continue the campaign for the next 2 weeks, I want you to urge your neighbors within this constituency not to become complacent. The same expressions I've received as I've visited house to house. I want you to urge the good constituents of St. George North, who are your friends, who are your family members, who are your neighbors, to come out and vote in their numbers on November the 11th. Because when you vote on November 11th, you're not simply marking an X next to a name. Your ballot must have meaning to each of you. Your ballot is a symbol to the rest of Barbados and the rest of the world that you take your own future seriously. So when you vote X, people have been asking for a referendum on the Barbados Labour Party. And your vote is that. Don't shy away from it. You've heard the reports this evening. You've heard the reports from the minister in the Ministry of Transport and Works. You've heard reports from tourism, from small business. You've heard reports on education. You are hearing reports on the progress that Barbados has made in the last 2.5 years, even amidst some of the most trying circumstances, a number of them externally imposed on this country. And it has been enough that some of you may wish to forget, or some of you may actually forget that there was a period where we would have figured that the achievements that you're hearing represented today were so distant and so remote, almost that they were impossible. Yet we are receiving reports this evening of buses. We're receiving reports on road works. We're receiving reports on garbage trucks. You're hearing And for people like me who have strong ties to St. John, you're hearing that water issues are being addressed. This is not something that we can take lightly. And the constituents of St. George, I regard you as being fortunate this evening. I regard you as being fortunate because in the coming weeks, and on November 11th in particular, you will be the first representatives of the citizens in Barbados that will be able to go into a polling station and say to the government of the Barbados Labour Party, we understand that it has not been an easy road. We understand that it is not perfect. We understand that there is still more that needs to be done, but we are with you and we thank you for the efforts that you have been committing up to now. Your vote is therefore a vote of confidence. A vote of confidence that the government that has been put in power in 2018, May 2018, is the best government to take you forward. Your vote is a vote of confidence and thanks to a minister, a member of parliament who has served you outstandingly for 26 years. Your vote is a vote of thanks to Glenn Clark for that service, and it's a vote of confidence in his endorsement of Tony Moore to take the baton on from him. And Glenn, I want to say at this time a very special thank you to you for all that you have done and all that you're continuing to do to make it possible for the people of St. George North to have continued representation in this constituency. And it's one thing for some person to stand up and say, I endorse you, I support you. But Glenn has been there almost step by step with me in this journey. And the truth is, he's many years my senior, but I have been struggling to keep up. Sun hot, roads bad, but getting fixed. Hills for me, any incline is a hill, and it's a serious cardio exercise. And Glenn is there, come on, and urging on. And then even when we meet up on people that you're feeling their frustration, you're feeling that they're not supporters, and they may say some harsh things as well, Glenn is there reassuring me, just smile. And when I heard the Prime Minister last night, as she was making a presentation to Glenn Clark, the Grant Lee Adams Award, and she said she never saw him angry. I can understand why, because his response to the stones and so on that are being thrown at him is to smile through it. But not only to smile in a dismissive way, but to understand what is causing it. And his encouragement to me is that you must go back to the drawing board and come back fresh for these people so that you win their support. And I could not have asked for a better mentor on this journey. So thank you. Your vote is a vote for the commitment not only of a prime minister, but of a team of parliamentarians that are committed to doing better, that are committed to understanding that where there are shortfalls, that they must pick up and improve it. And so I want to say a big thank you this evening to all the members of parliament that have come out and have shown their strong support, who have been leading teams of canvassers Saturday after Saturday, many of them sacrificing time in evenings during the week to come to your homes to let you know that your vote is not just a vote for an individual, but your vote in St. George North is a vote for a government, a team of parliamentarians that care, that are listening, that want to understand, and that want to continue to build back Barbados better for all of us. And so to all of you, I say thank you. And that thank you comes also with a warning that when you ask for more and you get more, you must be able to continue to respond to the more that will come. And they get it. They get it. And so I know that the Prime Minister could not have, on her own, determined that Moore was the best candidate for the Times. I'm sure that she had to be buoyed by the support of each one of the members of her team. And so I've thanked them. I want to say thank you to the National Council. And I say thank you as well, and particularly to the branch at St. George North. We are in difficult times, and I was commenting yesterday just to one member of the constituency. When you listen to CNN, a number of people say to me they don't listen to it because everything is inflated. But you have to listen because you're able to filter out what is important for you, the things that will influence the decisions, the very important decisions that have to be made. And one of the things that you're hearing, and you're hearing from the International Labour Organization and the IMF and a number of other credible sources, is that for the world to return to pre-COVID figures as it relates to unemployment is going to take at least until 2024. And if we take that report as a true report of where we are heading, it means that jobs which must come and which have to come will come, but will not come easily. And when jobs are being contemplated, that the right thinking has to be in place to put jobs or to afford jobs to our people. And so I want to urge you, the people of St. George North, I want to urge other constituencies represented here today that this journey is not going to be easy. The pathway is not going to be a straight one. But you have to be able to maintain hope and confidence in a team of people, the best team of people that can lead you through these very trying times. And so on the tongues of every constituent, almost every house you go to, we need work. We need work. And I know that the task you have not been committing to everybody that work will come, because I can't. There are just not enough jobs. What we are also seeing is that our welfare system, our social welfare system, therefore has to be boosted. But I want to leave a very important message to everybody here. You've heard it from the Prime Minister on several occasions before. But as I have had to go through the constituency and meeting with people, it has become more apparent that government alone will not take us from where we are to where we need to go. And so I'm speaking to everybody here, every individual who I have as a captive audience. Whatever we can do in whatever small way to uplift a brother or sister, let us do it. Because the task ahead and the hope that individuals need to be able to hold on to for better days coming is a hope that will not only be carried by what government can deliver, but what we can deliver to our neighbors and our families as we go through the long path of recovery and building Barbados better. So in closing, I leave my message to the people of St. George North. I reinforce what I've been saying at our public meetings. I reinforce what I've been saying to you as we've been meeting and having conversations. Your vote on November 11th is a vote for confidence. It's a vote for democracy. It's a vote for our youth. It's a vote for the empowerment of our women. It's a vote for recovery of our environment. It's a vote for the people of Barbados and the progress that we are going to see under a management, under a team that is led and committed to the development of the people of Barbados. I want to thank you for welcoming me to this first conference. It's the first time that I'm presenting myself as a candidate in your conference, and I'm buoyed by your energy, buoyed by your support, encouraged by every hug and every greeting you give. This journey is a long one ahead, but we are going to make it because what? COVID cannot keep us back. St. George North, Barbados Labour Party family, I thank you. God bless.
She brings will strengthen me as head.
A heavy lifter, helping me to carry this beautiful life.
She will fight for our rights to dream, dedicated to the people. St. George North, Tony is here for real, to treat everyone as equal. Give us more, me and more. St. George North.
We want, I want everybody to say this. We want more, 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 more. I'm going to get ahead of myself, and I'm going to say this evening that I'm happy to have Tony Moore as my parliamentary representative. I came and I found them. In opposition, they were there. They stood the course. They did not leave. Just like me, they are still here. Still here. And I refer this evening to a few talented individuals. I came and found them. They stood the course, and they are still here. I refer to you. I refer this evening to my good friend, Serenator. I call him Seri. TC, Terencia Coward. Lil Rick, the Chihuahua businessman. And the Rama, Peter Ram. They stood the course. They stayed with the Barbados Labour Party. They are still here, and I bring them to you this evening. Serenator, TC, Lil Rick, and the Rama.
Everybody get ready. Come for Barbados Labour Party. Get up and sing it. Whoa. We voted for the BLP. That's the best for we. Whoa. We voted for the BLP. That's the best for we.
The COVID pressure and hurt time put together. together, making me stronger. Let me go.
Yes!
Somebody make some noise for the BLP!
Somebody say, whoa! We working for the DLP. That's the best for me. We going with the DLP. That's the best for me. The COVID pressure and hurt they put together. That can hold me down. Still
What
can
up,
get me
DJ?
down.
Never!
We can work together. And protect the elders.
Somebody make some noise inside here right now! And get ready! Get ready! Get ready for the Prime Minister of Barbados, Honorable Mia Bartlett! Somebody say yeah! 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 Somebody say whoa!
We voting for the DLP. That's the best for me. We going with the DLP. That's the best for me. All together now. DLP. Working together. Making we stronger. The best for Barbados. I said DLP. Working together. Making me stronger. DLP. Let me go. We got more jobs coming. Opportunities coming. More land for food. We going green for true. Yes.
Yes, we fixing more roads, fixing water holes. Community stronger too. The better for me and you.
Because free university. Yes, we get that too. New buses on the road. Yes, we get that too. New garbage trucks. Yes, we get that too. Reducing the taxes. No, we do that too. And we singing. We voting for the DLP. That's the best for me.
Eventually. Are we ready? Are we ready? I don't feel you. Are we ready? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start this afternoon by thanking our performers who just came off the stage. And I want to thank those of you who are here this afternoon. We are gathered on the 24th of October, today, which has more significance than most of us realize, because the 24th of October stands as that date globally when people and countries, regardless of size, regardless of power, regardless of population, came together in spite of geography, in spite of political systems, in spite of all of the things that divide us, to come together, to commit to making the world a better place. And it is not by accident that I speak to you this afternoon on the 24th of October from the center of Barbados, in the middle of an election campaign, 29 months after being elected,
and to come to have a family talk. Because by all measurement, we are halfway along our journey. And there's some of you who would have been with me on Montgomery pasture just before the election. And I came down the hill from where I lived in Lodge Hill that night to talk with you and to begin the journey of sharing with you. And I've come to St. George this evening to talk to the family of the Barbados Labour Party, to talk to the people of St. George, but to talk to the people of Barbados. And I've come here recognizing that we are not here by accident. Because when I spoke to you at Montgomery pasture, we reflected on a decade that had been taken from us. We reflected on a spirit that had been broken. We reflected on a country that was struggling to find a pathway and struggling to see where it could see light and how it could create opportunity from the abyss of 23 downgrades, from the sewage flowing on the streets, from the absence of buses and the absence of garbage collection. Basic things that we took for granted during the course of our independent journey as a nation. And my friends, above all else, we told you that we needed to stabilize the country because that thing that most defined us, the value of our dollar, was at risk because we could not even pay the debts that we had in the month that we were elected without breaking everything left in the treasury and in our reserves. And you had faith, and you joined us on this journey. And today, when we came to the end of 2019 to go into 2020, we thought we were going to turn a corner. We had already put before you not just how we would govern by bringing together labor and the private sector from the very first morning of our government, from setting a common mission as a nation, which we were able to achieve. But we, over the course of the 29 months, have worked assiduously to put you, the people of Barbados, at the center of all my cabinet does and all the parliament does in this country. I am as proud as I could possibly be this afternoon. I listened to every speech in here today. You are accustomed seeing me come in from the back and come in only at the end. But I listened to every single speech, starting with William Duguid, to Ian Goodinedgell, to Jeffrey Bostick, Dwight Sutherland, Kerry Simmons, Tony Moore. And you know why? Because I knew that I was coming to have a family talk. And I knew that their responsibility was to remind you of what in 29 short months a team of people have been able to achieve. But were it not for the lack of time, you would have heard a lot more. Because you would have heard from Indar, and you would have heard from Ronald Toppin, and you would have heard from Ryan Strawn, and you would have heard from Marsha Cattle, and you would have heard from Dale Marshall, and I can go on, and Wilfred Abrams and Santia Bradshaw. Because as accomplished as Jeffrey Bostic was in his achievements in healthcare, from the A&E department that is now being expanded to the 40 community nurses that will deal with the 2,000 Barbadian patients who are the most chronically affected in all of the island, to the magnificent job that he has done leading from in front, no retreat, no surrender as we fight COVID. To William Duguid, who has come and built on George Payne's excellent work and is already putting us in a place where we can deliver houses for ordinary Barbadians who have been deprived the opportunity to be able to buy a house in the land of their birth and have become tenants under a Democratic Labour Party administration. You heard from this platform the plans for the thousands of houses over the next few years. But it isn't just the number of houses, it is the capacity to afford the houses, the capacity to be an owner in your own land. The ability to have a government recognize that our critical frontline workers, the police, the nurses, the teachers who must now teach our children in different environments, the public servants who must help carry the weight of the delivery of services to the people. Those earning under $3,000 and $4,000 could not afford to go and buy a piece of land at $25 a square foot or $20 a square foot, then to build a house. But this government, under now the leadership of, in the Ministry of Housing, of William Duguid, building on George Payne, as I said, has seen to it that we have been able to bring together the lots through planning gains, thanks to the work of Marsha Cattle and the others in the town planning department, so that we can take some of the CLECO lands that we are already paying for and make sure that you can get access to this land at no more than $12 a square foot in this country. But more so, when they deliver the details of the whole program to you, you will see the innovation where we take the opportunity to lease the roofs of the houses that we are building, to place renewable energy systems on it, such that the value of the land will not cost you $1 from your pockets as we go forward. Because in that contractual arrangement, the government will effectively transfer the land to you for free in exchange for the right to be able to put the renewable energy system on your platform. That is the equivalent of the expanded vision that Tom Adams left for us with the Tenantries Freehold Purchase Act. But you also heard the others speak, Dwight and Kerry. And the point is that I am not going to dwell anymore on those achievements, because they have started to deliver them. But I want you to walk with me this afternoon and talk with those when you leave here about what is the mission at hand. We told you that we were satisfied that the last government did not care. If they had cared, you would have had roads being done, instead of having to look for money to buy shocks every few months to keep your car moving in this country. And if you have somebody in the family that had an operation, God forbid, and got to drive on those roads with the shocks, you would understand why it is important for people to care. If they had cared, we would have seen money going to buy the trucks and the buses and all of the other things that you are now having. But we have a unique experience in this country as a party today in 2020. Most governments that have come to office in the 54 years since independence have had the luxury of focusing on a few, on focusing on the seats that they have. But in the wisdom of the electorate of Barbados, ours is not the ability to focus on a few. Ours is the requirement to focus on all 30 constituencies. And in focusing on all, it means that there has to be fair and balanced development for all. Glenn Clark told you from the floors of Parliament when he was retiring that never before has he been treated as well as a backbencher, as a member of Parliament, as fairly as he has been treated under this government in the last 29 months. And he didn't know, and I didn't know we would be here today when we did that, because we are trying literally to reflect the fact that every area in this country, from the very north of the island to the very south, we have to deliver, because what is at stake is the spirit and the opportunities for the people of this nation, particularly these young people who I'm so happy to see in this crowd in the last 2 days. It is therefore incumbent upon me to want to speak to you, the membership and the leadership of this party, because we have a duty to reflect and recommit at this point of half term. Over the course of the last few weeks, we have gotten to do what I love to do most. And while I have not yet been as complete in the blanketing that I will be in the next few weeks because of meetings of the World Bank and IMF in the last 10 days, I can assure you that there is nothing that energizes me more than rubbing shoulders. And Tony Moore, I want to salute you and Glenn Clark, because you are two peas in a pod when it comes to the willingness to rub shoulders and go in every nook and cranny across this constituency. But it isn't only Tony and Glenn that I need to do it. And I have every confidence that once the people of St. George North, Tony, get to know you as they have been doing, that they understand why I made the choice to ask the National Council of the Barbados Labour Party, along with the General Secretary, that we depart from normal practice and that we ask the party for the mandate to allow us to bring to the table someone who could help us with the heavy lifting of the moment that COVID has brought upon us. And why do I say so? Last night you heard Tony reflect in a brilliant way on the challenges that labor faces not just domestically, but internationally. On the reality that very often, and may I remind you what happened in 2013 and what happened in 1991, that the Democratic Labour Party chose the easy path to trying to bring their government back from the precipice. And what was that easy path? That they put workers on the front line of adjustment. You heard them fight on the floor of Parliament over and over and over about how they should respond to us when we told them that you are already paying a premium for the money that you're borrowing, and that the people who lending you the money have a duty to understand that you couldn't afford to do what you were doing, and that people kept lending and lending and lending as if there was no end, knowing full well that the country was not in a position to be able to repay. And as a result, instead of taking the decisions, and this is why I've come to debunk the nonsense about who is with capital and who is with not, that they chose to take the workers and the young people and say, you take the first lash, you take the second lash. Take away the fees from students, take away the jobs from the workers. They did it in 1991. And let us look at what we did in 1994. As Minister of Education, the first task I had was to be able to reverse the nonsense that would have seen Barbadian young people condemned to the dustbin of history because they would be deprived of the opportunities that their own parents and family would have had for 40 years in terms of being able to go to university education in this country. And little did I know that one day in the far future, Santia, that you and I would have that same task again, asking the rest of the cabinet to support us to be able to give the children of poor people and middle-class people in this country a chance to be the best that they can be with the opportunities afforded them in education. That doesn't cost 10 cents. The fees to be able to keep your children and our children in university is over $28 million alone in fees. And that has nothing to do with the $114 million alone that goes to the University of the West Indies, or the over 40 million at the community college and 30 million at the Polytechnic. So that when this government tells you these things, my friends, it is because we want to have balanced development. But the reason why I need to speak to some of us is because the expectations of an instantaneous generation, I want fast food, I want fast cause, I want instantaneous gratification, is that we can, you keep me seeing me doing it on a platform, we can twiggle the nose like Elizabeth on Bewitched, and abracadabra, what we want, we get. Well, let me tell you, what we want, we work for, and we get. And if you understand those three words, we work for, then you understand that there is a time and a process to things. But you also understand from the people who spoke on this platform tonight that nature and human beings find ways of sending you signals that you are on the right trajectory, you're on the right path. When you have a plant growing, you see the green shoots start to come up. And even though the fruit is not ready, even though the vegetables are not ready yet, you see where the plant is growing. And you know full well that within a matter of weeks, you are going to be in a position to reap. Same with the work of this government. We have not yet reached where we want to carry you. And in the words of Marvin this evening, we never see so much obstacles yet. That is true. But the Lord did not send us here just to be spectators. Indeed, there are those who say, as in the book of Esther, that we have been called for such a time as this. And they say so because when we walk through the nook and crannies, every corridor of this country, people say to us, can you imagine if Frandel was Prime Minister now? We're lost. We're lost. We're lost. And when my members of parliament sometimes feel weary, I remind them that it was not ours to be promised an easy journey. It was not ours to be promised a rose garden. But it is ours to stand up to the challenge, but not just do it, bring the people along with us as we do it. Ian Goodenough just came in, but you have already seen in 3 months what he is capable of in terms of delivering progress, both on water and roads and all of the other areas that he's been doing. He has been like the Duracell bunny. I don't know where he gets the energy from. They talk about me, but I don't know where he gets the energy from. And the bottom line is that he too recognizes, as I have shared with him, that he does not have the luxury of the Democratic Labour Party being able to ignore St. Thomas as they did for 10 years, St. George North as they did for 10 years, St. Michael Northeast as they did for 10 years, the city of Bridgetown, don't mind, I had an MP for 5 years, they ignored it for the other 5. If not, the people of Murphy's Pasture would not be requiring this government to resolve their problems. Ian understands that fair and balanced development across the country means that he has to move from St. Lucie to St. Philip, from St. John to St. James, and everything around and over and above. Because we are going to be fair to the people of this country. And sometimes I have to talk to some of us, because there are some among us who would want us, I regret, to behave like the Democratic Labour Party and to pursue the fatted calf at all costs. I told you from before the election that this government will not be in that. We will not be in that. We're going to make sure that everybody gets it fairly. Believe you me. But when you start, as they did, to pursue the politics of the passbook, as has been their DNA, and then the last bunch that they had perfected the politics of the passbook to the favor of the few. And who was the favor of the few? It wasn't even the majority of their rank and file. It was a handful of persons who were allowed to feed to the exclusion of all in this country. Well, we saw where it took them. 2 polling districts out of 313 in this country endorsed the Democratic Labour Party on the last occasion. 2 out of 313. Because the average Barbadian understood that where they were carrying us, we could not go. And that is why Glenn can talk about the fairness to backbenchers and not only ministers. That is why we can talk about having to spread the money from education with Santia and on top of the tuition fees. I watch every Caribbean country, and yes, we thank those like Rihanna and Jack Dorsey and others who have donated Barbadians in the diaspora. But you and I both know that the weight of making sure that there is no digital divide, that we don't leave a single child behind, requires that the government stands in the breach for the people of this country, for their children. And what does it mean? That we've got to make decisions to share. They say that I don't have children, but I now got 300,000 children. I know what it is to have to share to make sure that everybody get a little piece. And like a good mother, even if you have to do gravy with pigtail and salt beef in it, or salt fish, and let the gravy spread so that the flavor can make sure that everybody can have a belly full. We did not ask for COVID. The world did not ask for COVID. But in a funny way, we have to be grateful for COVID. Because COVID has reconnected us as families. COVID has reconnected us as communities. COVID has caused us to understand the importance of our environment and the things that we were taking for granted. And while we will get on top of it, I want you to follow with me why it is that we have to be balanced and fair in the development of this nation. There is no way that we can provide for roads and trucks and buses and leave your children out of university. There is no way we can put your children in university and leave the children at St. Giles Trevor operating in the squalor that they were being asked to operate in when we came to government, or the other schools that Santia has had to push ahead, trying to fix school after school after school after school. And you know why I empathize with her? Because when I became Minister of Education in 1994, there was no program for primary schools for over 4 years before I became Minister of Education. And similarly, Santia has inherited the same thing again. But we can't do for them and forget that we still have to do for the people in the hospital and the polyclinics, Jeffrey. And we can't do for them in there and forget that if we don't expand production in this country for food, we could be caught flat-footed if ships cannot come to Barbados because disruption of supplies from the markets from which our food would traditionally come from. All of us grew up hearing about big grain rice in the World War II. And what was big grain rice? It was sweet potato. Because the rice couldn't come from overseas. And therefore, we had to plant, and we had to raise our own stock, and we had to make sure that everybody could eat about here. And we find ourselves, you heard Tony speak about it last night, from the perspective of labor. I speak about it today from the perspective of so many more things besides labor alone, from food production, from political stability, from the ability of households to keep their heads above water. Because the 1930s moment in the Caribbean came not as a result of only colonial demise and colonial misrepresentation and colonial wickedness. It came also as a result of us being at the bottom of the food chain, coming out of the Great Depression. And they sneezed, and we caught pneumonia. And we caught pneumonia at a time when there was nobody even providing for us at the time. And out of that came the birth of this great political party as the first political party in the English-speaking Caribbean. 1938. And in 1941 came then the Barbados Workers' Union. And you must forgive me if in having this family talk, I say to you that the importance of bringing the workers' movement and the political arm of the Barbados Labour Party as a movement back together after 65 years. You understand what 65 years is? I don't, because I'm only 55. So it is beyond my contemplation. But I know that what we are doing is the right thing. And when I look at the League of Young Socialists, when I look at the number of young people coming into this party, I feel proud that we can hand back to you a party that is united in purpose and philosophy. It is up to you now to nurture it, to build upon it, and to take this party to the next great level that I know that it can go. Because in Tony Moore and the Workers' Union, we are not only influencing what happens here, but we are also influencing what happens from the policy perspective internationally. And you ask me, why am I talking to you about these things? Because Indar will tell you that if farmers want to be able to help us stop importing $25 million a year in vegetables and $11 million a year in lamb, then it requires not only that we produce here, but sometimes we may need to take protective measures, as Jerome and Sandra will tell you, in order to ensure that countries that are far larger than us and have the capacity to benefit from economies of scale do not flood our markets and stop our farmers from being able to earn while trying to feed our people. If we don't go outside and help influence that policy, then we simply become a victim of what is foisted on us. And that was half the problem of the last administration. So that for them, participating in this international forum was about going and buying fancy clothes and pretty suits and pretty shoes. Jerome would tell you that when we are away, I don't even get a chance sometimes to eat a meal, far less buy clothes. Because, and thank now for Zoom, we can do it from here. We can do it from here. But all of these things come together to mix, to allow fair and balanced development for our people. Because, why? Because we care enough for you. And at the end of the day, you want jobs. And we've got to create the jobs in agriculture, in manufacturing. Export manufacturing was one of the few things that grew during COVID because we were able to supply the sub-region at a time when the international world became cut off because they too saw their factories and their businesses shut. And we are now seeing a second wave, which means that we are at risk again of supply chains being cut off once more as we go into the Christmas season and into the early part of the new year. These are serious times. But what do we have instead? People masquerading as political parties. People trying to tell you that they are in something when in truth and in fact, all they're doing is literally mixing up. You know, I said the other day by the church that the Democratic Labour Party is confused between St. George and George Street. It really is. Well, I've never seen anybody take a candidate who born about here and carry them down there to introduce them to you about here. A perfect conundrum, if ever there was one. And what makes it worse is, and bear with me, is that they would now want to confuse you and tell you that these serious things that we are talking about and doing, not just talking, and doing, are things that no matter to them and that they're interested in what is said on a platform and what is not said, but yet do not want to recall that Parliament is made for three purposes: to tax, to pass laws, and to debate. But they believe that when they got to Bridgetown, instead of going down by the careenage, they want to go by the shallow draft because they feel that the role for them in this election is to debate and not to debate, to go to Kensington and not to Parliament. Well, let me tell you this. I want you to reflect on this. If in a fit of midsummer madness, Floyd Reefer was ever to be elected to Parliament, do you know that he could be the leader of the opposition in this country, but yet has to read his name from a piece of paper? I am Floyd Reefer. And let us be clear, Ambassador Comijong and I discussed this matter because Joe Adderley has just about 3,000 odd votes. Floyd Reefer would be going to represent a party that has 33,000 votes. And therefore, Joe, in a 1-1 race, there has to be a tiebreaker. And the tiebreaker may well, in the Governor General's mind, be the popular vote. So that when you begin to understand the import of the vote in St. George North, then you'll better understand that I ask you, as Tony has from this platform tonight, to reflect on why it is so important for you to come out and vote in this election on the 11th of November. But you know, I have no problem, and it is the reason why I reflected on Montgomery pasture when I came to speak to you this evening. Because Montgomery pasture, I bared my soul to you. I bared my soul to you. And I have come to you, the people of the Barbados Labour Party family, and to the people of St. George North, and to the people of Barbados, to say a moment is upon us again. And that we, as a nation, need to know that you are going with us and that we are on the right path to where we want to go in helping to protect this country from the pandemic, in helping to build and to create the opportunities. Because as a government, what I've tried to show you just now is that we are consumed with the essentials while not being displaced by the duty we have to pivot and to transform to the big ideas and to the world-class services that we must eventually get to. That we can't simply talk about transformation while you don't have water. That we can't talk about innovation while people can't get garbage collected. That we had to deal with basics at the hospital where we are still trying to expand the range of services. And Jeffrey, you're correct that no government has put more in healthcare in this country since independence. And it wasn't only about COVID, because the accident and emergency wasn't about COVID. The 40 community nurses wasn't about COVID. The continued expansion for the additional doctors that the hospital needs and the additional nurses, starting with the Ghanaians, wasn't about COVID. It was about getting Barbadians the ability to get health care that they need when they need, in circumstances that they can access and afford. And we go further. We don't believe that it is about government alone, but it is through the delivery of partnerships that we can make that even more effective. Because I say to you that I still am dealing with cases of people who need better and more, and we shall give them more and better in this country, as you shall give us more in St. George North. But it goes further. If you have a Democratic Labour Party government that cannot even find it and put it possible to come into contact with the reality of where this country is, I ask you, what are they coming to add to Parliament? What are they coming to add? And because of that, I come to talk to you this evening because the Barbados Labour Party cannot rest on its laurels. And the Barbados Labour Party must walk the breadth and length and breadth of St. George North, asking the people not just to give Tony the vote, but to give us the message that we are going with you in the right direction and protecting you from all that you need to be protected on, while creating the opportunities for you and your children. And when the 11th of November finishes, the other 29 of us, and I say 29 because Chris, you are 28 plus 1. The other 29 of us must now recommit to going on the ground and to ensuring that the rubbing shoulders that we have been doing in St. George North becomes the rubbing shoulders in every single constituency in this country. A word to the wise is sufficient. There used to be a song when I was growing up called Take Warning. You remember that song, Gabby? Take warning. Because the party that we have now is not about helicopter flights over constituencies. It's not about the air brigade, Jeffrey. It is about the infantry in and out. And sometimes if you got to be a guerrilla, you will be a guerrilla in and out and through, as Trevor would tell you, the nooks and crannies of every part of the constituencies. And it is only then that we get the feedback necessary. This week, we have on Monday morning again to conclude the list of supplementaries that Ryan will bring to Parliament on Tuesday, because we have had literally to adjust government's expenditure in order to meet the fact that this country now has seen the largest number of unemployment claims before the National Insurance Scheme that it has ever seen since the NIS was established in this country. Not because of anything we've done, but because none of us could have ever dreamt that tourism would reach a day with not a single cent coming into hotels in March and April and May, and at most in June and July, unless Jeffrey was using them as a quarantine facility. None of us. And what we therefore face is the desire for the public to be able to work with us and to have the conversations with us so that we can better refine what we must do. Because with the best will in the world, we cannot read minds as it relates to the settlement of policy. And any political party that seeks to read minds and to govern from here, instead of interacting with the people, will receive the punishment that is deserved, as happened under the Democratic Labour Party in the last election. I ask us to also recognize that a moment is upon us where we need to craft new instruments and new protocols. Tony, we have before us a social partnership that Sir Roy and Sir Lloyd and Sir John Stanley, as he then was, crafted in 1991 to meet the needs of a Barbados of 1991. Last night, you spoke about the importance of collaborating and coming together to fight the big challenges of our time. Saving the Barbados dollar was an example of us coming together to fight the big challenges of our time. We have to continue to come together, but we must do so now with even more nuance. There has to be a new protocol between the government of Barbados, the labor movement, and the private sector of Barbados, involving civil society and those are non-governmental organizations. And why? Yesterday morning, for example, we had a discussion about how Golden Square would be developed. And the traditional approach, you hire consultants and you hire big firms and they come down and all of that. Not about here. Not about here. We got too many people in this country. Remember what I told you about the gravy? And that the gravy must feed all? We got too many people in this country who are not working and who need help. And this government is prepared to walk the extra distance, to take the difficult decisions, to do the complex things that will allow us to be able to take money and instead of only giving people the opportunity to reap large dividends, to make sure that that money can be spread as far and as wide as possible in order for people to do forward. And why? Especially in Golden Square. Because without Golden Square, we would not be standing here today. Without Golden Square, there would be no Labour Party or Workers' Union. And yet, it was content for the country to hear about something called Golden Square in the back down there behind the NIS building off Nelson Street. And 95% of this country never see Golden Square yet. But I've come to talk about Golden Square as a metaphor for what I expect in a new protocol between Labour, government, and the private sector. I've come to talk about it because it means that there are some principles that we must put down and and hold dearly over the course of the next 2 years. Between now and March 2022, Barbados has to be managed by putting our people first at every step of the way. We have to be able to put jobs at the top of the list. We have to be able to support Barbadian production. Somebody tell me, well, you could really wear a different set of shoes because your nails ain't paint this morning. I said, that's true. But you know why I wear them? Because it make bout here. Make bout here. And you know why I'm sharing it with you? Because the next time somebody told me you go to buy something, or the next time Lillian, you go to buy something, Or the next time, William, you go to buy something. Look for what make in Barbados first, because that is what putting food on Bajan tables. And when they ask who tell you so, say, me I say so. Me I say so. And why? Because if we don't get to talk with our people and raise the level of consciousness and understanding as to what is at stake and what they can do day by day in their living, what does the pledge say? What does the pledge say? To do credit to my nation, day by day. And therefore, it is in the small things that we will make the difference to us being able to keep our heads above water. I have a subcommittee that we set up with the Republic Bank in order for us to see, not for Barbados, but for Barbados and the Eastern and Southern Caribbean, how we can keep households' heads above water, how we can keep businesses' heads above water. And you know what I tell them? That it isn't simply about keeping the mouth above water, because the truth is, in COVID, sometimes your mouth can go under the water, but keep your nostrils above the water for me, please. And as you keep your nostrils and your mouth sometimes above the water, just keep dog paddling and moving your hands. Why? Because you have also to use this time wisely to come out fitter and stronger and better prepared and better retrained than you were when you went in. It is why we will look at the sectors that will make money during COVID. We look at the digitization. Already as it is, look, people want to do everything on phones nowadays because it stops you from being able to interact and be exposed to the germs, including cash. And that is why Ryan is working assiduously with me to get a new national payment system and to us to do as much digitization in there. But Kay McConney has already, with Dale Marshall, delivered to you certificate of character that you can get in 10 minutes or less, when under the Democratic Labour Party you had to wait for 6 weeks to get a certificate of character in this country. And the job gone, gone, gone by the time you get the piece of paper in your hand to go for the job. That is why people are now saying that the driver's license exercise is so easy. And my friends, it will not always be perfect. Ian Goodenedgel will tell you that he would like to be able to buy a stock of cards for driver's licenses. But at the same time, we have a national ID card that we are going to launch in this country come 2021, January onwards. A digital ID. But COVID taught Dale Marshall and Kay McConney that you could use passes and permits on what? Phone. All who needed passes to move about Barbados during the curfew got them how? On phone. So that in the interim, why would we spend $700,000 that I could then use to do something else for families that are suffering, like the pit toilets that Floyd Reefer claimed that he didn't know about, but he from St. George. And talking in a way disparaging the people rather than committing his party to do what I have committed the Barbados Labour Party to do, to eradicate every single pit toilet in this country in the next 5 to 7 years. You cannot have fair and balanced development unless you take care of what is essential first before you get what you want. Your mother tell you needs come before wants. Needs come before wants. But if you can think smart, then it means that you think wisely. And if we can use in the 3-4 months the passes for those who need licenses until the digital ID comes, then that is what is good husbandry of the government's finances. I ask you, my friends, to recognize that we are at that moment where we need to do things differently. In the new protocol, if we were accustomed getting a 20% or a 15% return on investment. Let us live with 8 and 7% for now, for 2 years. Why? Because at the end of the day, the savings that we make on each project, whether in the public or the private sector, allows us to do more, to carry more Bajans through this difficult period that has the same effect as a world war. In case people did not know it, we are running a war cabinet in Barbados because the world is at war. It's an invisible enemy, but it is an enemy that has taken down more than 1 million people who are already dead. It is an enemy that is taking people day by day by day by day. And Jeffrey, we don't boast. Why? You and I. Because we know that what ain't catch you ain't pass you necessarily. And that we are as strong as the vigilance that we exercise each and every day. We see what is happening in the United States of America. We see a virus take down from leaders to paupers. We see a virus turn economies on its head. And we learn that the first rule in the art of war is to not disrespect your opponent. But in not disrespecting our opponent, we must prepare to keep all of us safe. And that is why I ask us to literally recognize that now is the time to ease back. And that now is not the time for greed. Now is not even the time sometimes for a full belly. Now is the time to recognize that good old Bajan saying that a little with content is great gain. And I have every confidence that that came out of those war years. And that came out of the resilience necessary to avoid slavery. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that we will be judged on in the future is how many we have brought to safety. For if we leave some on the side of the road, then the judgment will be cast upon us that we do not care, as the Democratic Labour Party did not care for that decade. And you and I have worked too hard. We have been too steeped in the philosophy of Grantley Adams. We have been too steeped in the work of Tom Adams and Henry Ford and Bree St. John and Owen Arthur. And let us talk about their second, Billy and David and Johnny and all of the rest. Ronald Mapp, Menzies Cox. It's not just about the leaders, it's about all of us. It is about the Griffos who have gone long past. It is about all of the people, Miss Green from Christchurch West, who was a fixture. Chester is still with us as a bridge to those times. It is about the family of the Barbados Labour Party accepting that the responsibility of 30-0 is not that of the Prime Minister and the MPs alone. It is of the entire family of the Barbados Labour Party. And what is your responsibility? That come the 20th of November, when all constituencies, 29, and you too, sorry, Tony, you too, will ensure that the modus operandi of this party is to keep grounded, rubbing shoulders, and awaiting the People's Assemblies and the other governance reforms that we expect to get in the Thorne Commission report that has been going around the country for the last 2 years, asking you, the people, how we can improve how we govern you going forward. And the additional commission, Sir Richard, that you will chair on parliamentary reform, because this country has had no serious change to parliament since 1971, when we moved from double-member to single-member constituencies. We have simply to change. Just as we asked the United Nations to change to accommodate us, to reflect the fact that in 1945, on today's date, when 50 of the 51 countries, when 51 countries saw to it that the Charter of the United Nations could become a real thing, protecting rights of the marginalized before. But it did not include the colonized as nations. And today, we have a body that does not make sufficient room for the realities of small island states such as ours, and want us to believe that we should be captured in a box by definitions and criteria that lead to blacklisting and denial of funding. And why does it matter to you, the family, and you, the people of St. George North? Because that determines how much money we can spend on roads, on trucks, on buses, on jobs, and on all the other things. Whether we can have a COVID relief program, whether we can do the things we have done to support small businesses, Lynette, or whether can do the things over $120 million in unemployment benefit. 1.2% of GDP from a country as small as this. And might I remind all of you, that is in an IMF program. That is in an IMF program. Well, if being in an IMF program has allowed us to do the things that we have done, from giving public servants a 5% pay increase, to now appointing over 3,100 public servants who have been acting in positions for 10 years in some instances, 5 years, but all above 3 years, then let me do the way that we are doing it, or in the words of Frank Sinatra, my way. Because what we have done is to unlock the opportunities while dealing realistically with our problems, but never, never, never forgetting that people and their welfare and their well-being must be at the center of all that we do, all that we craft, and all that we believe in. So, my friends, as the sun has set on this St. George evening, on the 24th of October, let us be buoyed that we meet on that day when the world signaled that fairness matters, when the world signaled that transparency matters, when the world signaled that accountability matters, when the Barbados Labour Party reported and was accountable to its conference, the highest decision-making body, that we, in 29 short months, have not completed the journey, but that we have started it with a pace and a commitment that no matter how much obstacles come before us, that we shall go over, we shall go under, we shall go around, and if necessary, we shall go through them, because this is who we are. This is the Barbados Labour Party. And in the words of that immortal song of Gabby, culture, carrying the child by granny, that is we culture. Watching flying fish float pankaku, that is we culture. My friends, we can only succeed if we are true to ourselves. We are Bajans. We are the inheritors of a proud legacy. But we are facing, like the rest of the world, challenges that have the potential to undermine our society, our planet, and our individuals. We cannot make it alone. Not as a government, not as a party, not even as a nation. We have to commit to the principles of solidarity and unity. And if you understand that that is what the world calls for in 2020, and if you understand that those are the principles as the Secretary General of the United Nations called for, he called for a new social compact. Barbados had a social partnership, and I have called for a new protocol in the social partnership. He called for a new global deal. And I have called for a new approach to enterprise and the shared burden that prosperity and burden sharing are the twin imposters, victory and defeat. In the poem, If, by Rudyard Kipling. But for us, the political reality of those twin imposters is shared burden and shared prosperity. Why? Because as Bajans, we know that we can only get to where we are going, not if we walk alone, but my friends, stand with me if we walk together as one. We are the Barbados Labour Party, and we shall do for Barbados what it needs now, for we have been called for such a time as this. Thank you, and God bless you all. Parliamentary party to join me on stage, please, because this is who we are, and this is who shall carry you for the next half of the term, because you have given us a mandate to remain faithful. Tony, you will soon be with us. Come too. Come, come, come.
Opportunities coming, more land for food, we going green for truth.
Yes, yes, we fixing more roads, fixing water walls, community stronger too, the better for me and you.
Because free university, yes we get that do. New buses on the road, yes we get that do. New garbage trucks, yes we get that do. Reducing the tax, and no we do that too.
I want to salute this team because there is no journey that can be done by any one person. This is the team, and there are people like Clyde and many of you and the rank and file in here. We have only got to this position with your help, your commitment, and your love. Let us stay together, and on Monday morning,
Where's Tony? On Monday morning, I ask you to join us as we walk from the constituency office to the Valley Resource Center to mark history again, because you will for the first time have the potential of electing a woman as the representative for the people of St. George North. You will be able to tell your children that not only were you part of that moment, that when Grantley and others in 1944 gave women the vote for the first time in this country, they expected that a moment like this would come for every constituency. Monday morning is the time for St. George North. We will leave there at 11:30 to walk down to the Valley Resource Center, and we will send a message to the people of St. George North that we are ready to give you more. Good night, and God bless all of us. Thank you, and long live the Barbados Labour Party.
Working together, making we stronger. The best from Barbados, I said BLP. Working together, making we stronger. BLP, let me go. We got more jobs coming, opportunities coming. More land for food, we going green for truth. Yes,
Yes, we fixing more roads, fixing water woes. Community stronger too, the better for me and you.
become free university. Yes, we get that do. New buses on the road. Yes, we get that do. New garbage trucks. Yes, we get that do. Reducing the taxes, no we do that. Do we singing? Boy, we voting for the BLP. That's the best for me. Boy, we going with
Tomorrow
the
night,
BLP.
tomorrow
That's the
evening,
best for me.
Barbados Labour Party's campaign goes to Tate Hill, where we continue the march to elect for the first time in the constituency of St. George North a woman of substance, a woman of class, a woman ready, willing, and prepared to do justice. She will not only fill the shoes left by Glenn Clark, she will burst them open with her level of representation. Tomorrow night, Tate Hill, 7 p.m., Barbados Labour Party. We are looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you. Good night. God bless. What do you want?
We want more,
More.
plenty
More.
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 And
More.
Tony gonna give us for sure. We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. We want more quality, more integrity, more ability. Flood cannot do that for we. We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. So we voting for Tony, we voting for Tony, we voting for Tony. And the BLP, we voting for Tony, we voting for Tony, we voting for Tony. And the BLP, we want more, plenty more.
Yeah.
And Tony gonna give us for sure. We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. We want more quality, more integrity, more ability. Floyd cannot do that for me. We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. So we voting for Tony.
Look,
we voting for Tony. We voting for Tony. And the BLP,
sing it.
we voting for Tony. We voting for Tony. We voting for Tony. And the BLP.
What do you
We
want?
want more,
More.
plenty more.
All right.
And
More.
Tony gonna give us for sure.
All right, look.
We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure.
We want more quality, more ability, more ability. Floyd cannot do that for me.
We want more, plenty more. Tony gonna give us for sure. So we voting for Tony.
What we doing? We voting for Tony. We voting for Tony. And the BLP. We voting for Tony. We voting for Tony. We voting for Tony. And the BLP. We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. We want more quality, more integrity, more ability. Floyd cannot do that for me. We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. So we voting for Tony, we voting for Tony, we voting for Tony. And the BLP, we voting for Tony, we voting for Tony, we voting for Tony. And the BLP, we want more, plenty more.
We want
Tony,
more,
gonna give us
plenty
for sure.
more. And Tony
Yeah,
gonna give us for sure. We want more, plenty more.
And Tony gonna give us for sure. We want more quality, more integrity, more ability. Floyd cannot do that for me. We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. So we voted for Tony, we voted for Tony, we voted for Tony. And the BLP, we voted for Tony, we voted for Tony, we voted for Tony. And the BLP, we want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. We want more quality, more integrity, more ability. Floyd cannot do that for me. We want more, plenty more. And Tony gonna give us for sure. So we voted for Tony, we voted for Tony, we voted for Tony. And the BLP, we voted for Tony, we voted for Tony, we voted for Tony. And the BLP.
We're ready. Yeah. No, everybody get ready. Whoa. For Barbados Labour Party. Feel the rhythm. We voting for the BLP. Yes, that's the best.
Thank you. It's more. Ladies and gentlemen, if you had a good time at conference this year, somebody say yay! Well, for 2021, let me just tell you who your National Council reps are going to be. When I call the names, I want you to give them a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, Lucy Joseph, Gail Powers-Yard, Keith Reitz, Nicole Thorpe, Marcus Stevens, Sonia Eveling, Ricardo McConney, Simeon Innes, Mohammed Patel, Philip Stewart, Lana Trotman, Dwayne Phillips, Mohammed Kaldewala, Lisa Jaganov, David Carter, Michael Mason, Denton Critchlow, Andrew Glasgow, Nigel Whitehall, Ronald Ashley. So we're going to call them from the branches, as you know. From the city of Bridgetown, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Lucy Joseph. From St. Michael Central, Gail Powers-Yard. From St. Michael East, Keith Reitz. From St. Michael North, Nicole Thorpe. From St. Michael Northeast, Marcus Stevens. From St. Michael Northwest, Sonia Eveling. From St. Michael South, Ricardo McConney. St. Michael South Central, Simone Innes. St. Michael Southeast. From St. Michael West, Mohammed Patel. From St. Michael West Central, Philip Strawn. Christchurch East, Lana Trotman. Christchurch East Central, Dwayne Phillips. From Christchurch South, Mohammed Koftiwala. From Christchurch West, Lisa Jaganov. From Christchurch West Central, David Carter. From St. Philip North, Michael Mason. From St. Philip West, Denton Critchlow. From St. Philip South, Andrew Glasgow.
St. George North, Michael Whitehall. St. George South, Ronald Lashley. St. Joseph, Joseph Riley. St. John, Stephen Savory. St. Thomas, Alan Whitaker. St. James Central, Jefferson Payne. St. James North, Diana Ford. St. James South, Wayne Eiffel. St. Andrew, Tricia Henry. St. Lucie, Danny Babb. St. Peter, Carl Boyce. For the League of Young Socialists, Shane Archer. From the Women's League, Wendy Knight Hunt. From the Northern Zone Reps, that's Senator Ramal Springer. And Southern Zone Rep, Winston Stafford. And your conference chair for 2020-2021 will be no other than Pat Paris. Ladies and gentlemen, give them all a big round of applause. Now, before you leave, on behalf of the St. George North branch, I want to invite you to join them over at the tent to the left. There's lots of food, there's lots of drinks, and they're inviting all of you to join them there so you can make your way to the tent for St. George North. Ladies and gentlemen, from the conference team and myself, good night, God bless, and we hope to see you soon.
Time put together, that can't hold me down. No, still can't get me down. Never. Because we can work together. What? And protect the elder. Yes. And uplift the young and keep Barbados strong.
Strong. Yes. We making the best out of every situation. Yeah. With plenty respect for each and every Bajan. No promises kept, but still the LB can't done.
I bet the Barbados for no one generation and we singing.
Opportunities coming, more land for food. We going green for truth.
Yes, yes, we fixing more roads, fixing water walls. Community stronger too, the better for me and you.
Because free university, yes we get that do. New buses on the road, yes we get that do. New garbage trucks, yes we get that do. Reducing the tax and no we do that. Do what we singing. Be voting for the DLP, that's the best for me. We going with the DLP, that's the best for me. DLP, working together, making we stronger. The best for Barbados, I said DLP, working together, making we stronger. DLP, let me go. DLP, DLP. You ready? Well, I'm ready. Yeah. No, everybody them ready. Come vote for Barbados Labour Party. Feel the rhythm. Be voting for the DLP. Yes, that's the best for me. We going with the DLP. That's the best for me. Hey.
The COVID pressure and hard time put together, that can't hold me down.
No.
Still can't get me down.
Never.
Because we can work together.
What?
And protect the elder.
Yes.
And uplift the young and keep Barbados strong.
Strong.
Yes, we making the best out of every situation.
Yeah.
With plenty respect for each and every Bajan. No promises kept, but still the LB can't done.
I bet the Barbados for no one generation and we singing. Be voting for the DLP, that's the best for
opportunities coming. More land for food, we going green for true.
Yes, yes, we fixing more roads, fixing water holes. Community stronger too, the better for me and you.
Because free university, yes we get that do. New buses on the road, yes we get that do. New garbage trucks, yes we get that do. Reducing the taxes, no we do. Boy, we voting for the DLP, that's the best for me. Boy, we going with the DLP, that is the best for me. Can I talk just a little bit? Can I really talk just a little bit? Can I really talk just a little bit? Hold on. Now is the time.
Now is the time.
Everybody ready?
Everybody ready?
Go tell your friends.
Go tell your friends.
Tell your whole family.
Your whole
And
family.
tell the stranger upon the left.
On the left.
Tell the stranger upon the right.
On the right.
We rolling with BLP. It's one chance to make this right. Together we rolling. Together we moving. Together we working. And we building. Tell me how you're feeling. You know why? All our way with the BLP. All our way one family. All our way with the BLP. All our way with me up. Come let me step.
With me up.
We making it better.